The U.S. Forest Service update, Carol Johnson. Hi.
Good morning. Okay, glad to be back here and get back on schedule with y'all. Seemed like between the fires and just doing salvage, there wasn't much more to report for a few meetings there, but we're getting back to more of a normal program. I just want to say on the Sunrise Fire Salvage update as to where we are with that. We went through our public scoping, received a lot of comments, and the majority of those were favorable toward salvage, and quite a large percentage of those were requesting some additional acres be added. And so where we are with that, we have three alternatives that we ended up with. One was always an alternative of no action. One was the proposed action that we came out with in our scoping. And the third alternative we call the public alternative, which is shows additional volume, which was largely requested by most of the scoping comments that we got. And certainly Willie and some folks from IFG spent quite a bit of time up there in the burned area and provided us with some really good information with some a mapping of where they thought there were additional opportunities. And some of the areas our folks were familiar with, some that they needed to take a second look at. And so they did that, and so we didn't end up with all the acres that was presented on the map, but certainly some additional quite a few additional acres. And so our ID team, or our NEPA team, is analyzing those alternatives right now and writing their reports as to what the different effects of those three alternatives would be. And they have until February 28th to complete their reports to Pat Partica, our NEPA team leader, and then after we see their analysis of the three alternatives, we will be sending that to Tim Garcia and briefing him, and then Tim will make a selection as to which alternative he will go forward with, and then we'll get that out to everybody. So that's kind of where we are with the process there. I just want to say thanks to all of you on the county commissioners for your support during the Sunrise Fire. That was, I think, tremendous. The meetings that you attended down at 9 Mile, some of the public meetings, and Lori, you were there at most of our stakeholders meetings throughout the whole thing, and the public meetings, and then I know all three of you came over a couple times, and so that, I think that was really important, and it meant a lot to me to have your support, so I really appreciate that. Going on to a couple other things on salvage that's not on our district, but I think you'd be interested in, is that the Moose Peak and Sheep Gap decks that they had up for sale, they didn't receive any bids on those, but they think the reason that they didn't was by the time they got those advertised, and they were back in quite a ways, and it would require quite a lot of snow plowing, and so people really didn't have a good opportunity to look at those, and they're pretty sure that they'll get them sold. They're going to re-advertise them in the spring, is what I'm hearing, so that you don't have to plow into them, and people can go in, and purchasers can look at them and see really what kind of volume is there.
Did they get the log decks out on the Sunrise one, the ones up west side and those?
No,
Oh.
I don't think I think they're gonna get them when come spring. Willie, you haven't, as far as I know, they didn't do any haul there. So, Rice Ridge, the public scoping for that closes on the 22nd, which would be Monday. So that's where that project is.
How did that one go in terms of salvage in relation to percentage burn, et cetera? Or was there still a little bit of kind of apprehension by the ranger up there to take as much as they could? Because like in the meeting we were in, there was a little bit of, you know, the 23,000, they only want to do about 2,800 or whatever. It was the same kind of
I don't
thing
know
up there.
what to see, they're still going through just getting their public scoping, Roman, so they have it, after they get the comments, analyze the comments that they get from the public through the scoping, then they will come up with their alternatives. So I haven't seen anything on that yet. And I really haven't heard, I haven't seen the acreage that they were proposing. Something makes me want to say about 4,000
Yeah,
acres.
it's 48 something.
Yeah, 4,000
It's-
something.
It's actually just 3% of the total acres that were burned on national forest. 4% of what was burned on the Lolo.
Mm.
I know the Lolo, they weren't gonna do a whole lot at all on theirs.
It's a fairly substantial amount, but it's still not, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, from an industry side, it would be
yeah.
a small.
We are certainly asking for more, and I have a letter drafted for you guys to read on that, so, to make comments for you guys. So.
Okay.
So, and those are due Monday, I think,
Yeah.
Willie, so make sure you get those in. The other thing is, we're just starting to talk a little bit about, and next Monday, we're gonna be discussing as a forest and looking for some regional direction for mushroom harvest. And the reason that the region is gonna be kind of involved with that is because a lot of these fires crossed not only district boundaries, but also crossed forest boundaries. You know, like some was on for instance, Lolo Peak was Lolo, Bitterroot, some were Lolo, Kootenai, and so the region will give us some guidelines for that, and we're expecting on our Monday call to be hearing from the region as to our sideboards or our guidelines that we'll need, and see where we're gonna go, and I just, you don't know, there's a lot of opportunities, but I just think as far as mushroom harvest or picking, sunrise fire might offer more easy access than some of those other fires. That's just my own thought, so that if you look at, Lolo Peak, some of that ground was pretty steep.
No roads in there up high.
And where Sunrise is fairly roaded, so that could be an attractive thing for people wanting to pick mushrooms. So as we learn a little bit more about that, we'll be getting back with you and certainly needing to involve, the sheriff's office, because we're gonna be asking the regional office, certainly, how can they help support us with, if we do, you can't really stop people from coming to pick, whether you have commercial harvest or whether you don't, but you certainly have an impact not only to your front office staff with people coming in wanting to buy, purchase the permits, but also monitoring where you have camps and that sort of thing. So some law enforcement additional assistance would be needed, as well as we would need to add some additional staffing to our front office for that time period when the peak of the mushroom season is on.
What is that time period? How long? Does anybody know what that? Probably depends on the weather, huh?
It does. When it starts to get hot, well then the mushrooms start to go, but
April is always
Pretty
just
big.
You can just first week, second week of April.
They certainly picked a long time on that Copper Cane fire. They were up there a long time, and I heard they were even picking the ones that were drying out, and I guess they're still good. I don't know, when I pick them, I don't pick those dry ones, but, so, they were up there a long time.
And we don't know, I mean, there's some thought that, because there's a lot of fires to the west of us, California, Oregon, and so You know, whether they'll start picking there early and then move as the snow line moves, so we really don't know what kind of impact we're gonna have, and then with all the fires on the Lolo compared to Copper King, which was kind of the only big fire, so
We
we'll,
might not have as many.
yeah, it'll be spread out, so, you know, the impact might not be too much. It's just kind of hard to tell, but we'll be talking a little bit more about that as we know it.
So, Carol, can you tell, I was working with Lincoln County when they had a big fire up there and the mushroom thing just went crazy. I mean, all the humongs, all the people, guns, money, it was really an interesting thing up there. But they're having big fights in camp, law enforcement. But one of the things up there that they got stuck with is that the people just pretty much started deciding to camp wherever they wanted to camp. And it was like, there was no direction about, don't do this, don't do that, you know, no signage about where and what you can do. So just a kind of an input type thing is that the more direction you get on the ground out there, the more, hopefully, the more control you're gonna have on it. It can get really wild and really real quick out there.
Yeah, it can, and it's becomes competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, this, you're in my spot, those sorts of things, and, you know, litter is the last time that we had commercial picking here on our district was following the fires of 2000 in up Trout Creek, and we, at that time, we just designated closed Trout Creek campground to the public and opened that. That was a designated area where people camped because we had garbage facilities, sanitation, and that worked pretty well where we were able to keep, and we had a few people scattered in some dispersed sites, but we monitored that and said, no, if you're gonna be here for any length of time, you've gotta get down into Trout Creek and you gotta stay there. And we did find, you know, there was, like if they parked by a gate, there was quite a bit of litter kicked out, you know, just lunch sacks and fast food wrappers and all of that sort of thing. And then, of course, you have the language barrier of a lot of people that are come in picking don't have a good understanding, or they're not proficient with our language, and so you have a communication issue. You know, don't dump the garbage here, but trying to get people to understand it, and so. It's a task at hand, but we'll work through it. Going on to just some active timber sales that we have due to the winter season has been, you know, we're starting to get some snow. People are working in snow, but we still have, TRL has a tractor side still going up in Firecracker Annie. They've been working pretty steady up, all winter up in there. But Lori Lewis is working in quite a bit of snow. And IFG has been, they've got line machines up in on the 7 mag timber sale, working up to pretty high up in Dry Fork of Tamarack. And Ted Martin, I think, from here has got a line machine up on the Billy Gulch side working. And Gary Bailey is working in the camouflage timber sale up Mayo Creek there, and on a tractor side, and really progressing right along there. So a lot of activity here, and Plains has a lot of activity as well going with the. They got 2 or 3 with the Copper King salvage sales going, and I think Little Ed, was it Little Eddie? Or, yeah, several. So if you look at all the activity on the west zone, there's a lot. And one of the things that I talked about on our Monday morning ranger call is that on the west zone we have 87 million board feet of timber under contract, and more to more to come, obviously, with the salvage sales. And then when we get back to our green program, and so one of the things that we're going to become short on right away, or we're short now, but we're going to get shorter, is we need some additional sale administrators. We're going to get spread. We just have 2, and we're going to get spread really thin. So I'm going to be requesting. I mentioned that on our Monday call around, so I'm going to be pushing that we're going to need some additional sale administrative help. And the forest and the region has approved 3 timber positions. 2 of those will be, one is replacing Eddie Bringenberg. When he retired, we've never been able to fill that position just with the federal hiring. And so it's been approved by the region, but those 3 positions are waiting for approval above the regional office with the federal hiring. So we don't know when we're going to get that, so we're looking at bringing detailers in to fill those positions. So we have running our pre-sale program that Eddie Bringenberg did, and then we are looking for a recon forester, and those positions will, when we fill them, we'll have a duty station that can be, they're all forest positions that are able to move wherever on the forest the workload is, but the duty station for those 2 positions will be Plains, Superior, or 9 Mile. And the workload will be primarily Plains or Superior at this point in time, and the thought was making 9 Mile available as a duty station might attract more candidates, because there's not a lot of applicants for some of these positions right now. And then a 3rd position would be like a small sales forester, and that position would be forest-wide as well, but would be on the east zone. So those we're just waiting for departmental approval at the Washington level, but we're going to have to bring in some help with our sale administration with that much timber under volume and more sales to come through salvage. We'll be working on that. Let me see here.
Oh, Carol, back up, what were you talking about? The workstations being, so they're not gonna be coming out of your office, they'll be out of Plains or?
Could be Superior, Plains, or 9 Mile would be for the 2 positions that primarily right now would be working on the west zone.
Why would they put them in 9 Mile when it's so close to Missoula?
Well, that's what you're saying. You get a younger forester, you get somebody interested in that, and their wife wants to do whatever and everything else. They'll
Yeah.
go to 9 Mile because all of a sudden their significant other in the Missoula to do work. That's what's real positive about it, 9 Mile.
She's saying that they're having trouble filling
Yeah.
the positions if they don't have the help.
County applicants.
Yeah, we're not getting large number of applicants, and especially qualified applicants are a little bit scarce right now in almost all positions. Seems kind of odd, but
Well, it seems to me that if you could still have the station here, I mean, if they wanted to live at Fish Creek or Alberton or even 9 Mile on their own, but you just, I don't know. It just seems kind of like Mineral County, that the people that live here, the people that make the decent paying jobs don't want to live here. The money all goes out in terms of either real estate taxes or where they spend their grocery money or where their kids go to school. It just would seem like it would be more of a community of the people that worked here, at least lived in the area that they, I mean, I don't know. On the highway patrol anyways, to me, that has never worked when they let people live somewhere out of there. They never seem to drive down there like they promise and swear to God they're gonna do when they arrange it. They always gravitate towards their home, pick up their mail there, go home and eat there, and there's a pain in the butt. It just seems like you care more about the community and your neighbors, yeah. I mean, somebody who lives in, I know I'm preaching to the choir, Carol, so I'm not chastising you, but it just seems to me that if somebody lives in downtown Missoula, it's not the same as if they live next door to a logger out here in Superior. Their mind is a little bit more present about what their actual work is in terms of helping not only their agency, but their neighbors.
That's true. Roland. And I certainly like to see people in our communities,
Mhm.
because if we have younger families,
Mhm.
you know, we have
Yeah.
kids in our school systems, and they shop here.
Yeah, that's why everybody loves you. You know the area, the people. I mean, you help with the fair. And you got a little bit more skin in the game than someone who just punches in, gets their 75 grand a year in health insurance, and then goes back,
Yeah.
and then lives across the street from a guy in the Wilderness Association or something like that.
Well, if people live here, obviously more money is spent here, and you have more ownership in, you know, how our
The
county-
smoke doesn't seem to bother them the further you get that way either. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know, so I hope that you can find some people around here or Plains or whatever that are interested, or I just don't like the idea of the workstations gravitating to 9 Mile when that place is just a skip from Missoula. It might as well be Missoula for that matter, you know, and we have a totally different forest than that urban, semi-urban Missoula
And we have a
County.
different public.
Yeah, yeah,
We
exactly.
have
Definitely
We have a
different
different public
Mhm.
by far, so
Carol,
we'll see.
like on that position you have to replace Reddy,
Yes.
can you move somebody from here into that position and then fill their slot, or do you have to bring somebody for Eddie's position?
No, we will have people, I believe, on our staff that will compete for that position, and I think they'll compete pretty well.
And then can you fill their slot rather than bringing somebody in for Eddie's? You know, if you have somebody move up from within, then you make another vacancy.
Then that's the issue, we have another vacancy, and so then you gotta go back through the process to fill that, and so the time that it's taking to fill these positions is lengthy.
Oh,
Lengthy.
it is so insane what they've done with this system.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know.
well, I just ask, because those are the things that we comment on.
Mhm. So, I'm thinking that we will have people that will compete for those positions.
And rightfully so.
And rightfully so.
And then, you know, it seems like it should be just a very easy transition. Now, instead of looking for this person for this position, we're just looking to fill this guy's slot. And
But you have to recognize that our hiring now is centralized out of Albuquerque, and so
That was probably the dumbest thing they ever did.
Oh,
it's not an
It's
easy
one of them.
system to
Yeah.
navigate.
Yeah.
And then the thing that you really have to be careful with is some of the people that are applying for fire jobs right now. I mean, they've had to have their application in, but going through the computers, getting their application on, if somebody just doesn't click a certain box, it throws their application out. So when the people, that all goes to Albuquerque and say, if we're gonna hire a fire person here on Superior, Albuquerque, then you request a list of qualified candidates. Albuquerque screens, and so here's your list of qualified candidates that you get back from Albuquerque, and it will have people with veterans preferences and those sorts of things listed. But if somebody misses just some little box on that computer, and we've had that happen to some of our people applying for a position where it could actually be a promotion for them, and okay, so when they get the list of qualified candidates, this person's name is not even on there to be considered, and you call Albuquerque to see, well, what happened to this individual? They didn't qualify, and you look back, and they missed something on that application, so that's,
And there's no way for that applicant to track with them down there that it's been accepted or complete?
well, but sometimes by the time they find out, they can't get back into the system, it's so close to, it's closed, then they, review it, so it's a
Maybe
tough
somebody should
thing.
have a suggestion that there's just another little box on their end that says your application has been accepted and complete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's so many, we all fill out stuff online, and if you don't check a box and you get down the bottom, it says, no, you didn't.
Right.
You gotta
Yeah.
go back up and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's
won't
why-
accept it until
You
everything's
know,
filled
why they
out,
would
right?
leave a simple little process out like that to make sure that everybody got all the right boxes checked. And
Sometimes you just wanna punch that screen before it finally dawned, oh,
yeah, exactly. They could have the same thing on that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I
so
won't get on my-
it's not easy like it used to be, and people really have to pay attention. And you almost need to make sure you're working with somebody that is really good with that computer and understands those applications to maybe review something before you hit submit. And you know, we're trying to do that with people, because if they just do it on their own and they think they got it, well, maybe they do and maybe they don't. It's not an easy process. Another thing is, Route of the Hiawatha is celebrating, it's been 20 years since that rail trail started under concessionaire.
Hmm.
And Heather Berman and I just went to one meeting, she's been to a couple, and we have one next week again over in Wallace. The Idaho districts there from the St. Joe, the Coeur d'Alene River Ranger District in our district, along with the Chamber of Commerce and some groups there out of Wallace. We're working on what kind of a celebration we're gonna have or whatever to celebrate the 20 years of the rail trail. And Hiawatha Trail attracts over 45,000 people a year, and it's, I believe, been voted the #1 rail trail in the United States. So if you would put June 23rd on your calendars, that is the date that's been selected as some kind of a ceremonial program, and we're developing just what that's gonna be. And probably be just a short program there at the St. Paul Trailhead on our side. And then I think, still being developed, and we'll know more, but they're looking at having maybe a vendor fair at Lookout Pass there where they have room in the parking lot for outdoor vendors to set up for a day or for the weekend or whatever. And then there'll be some other, you know, throughout the summer season will be some different events, but that'll be kind of the kickoff. And so would like to invite you as commissioners to that. The concessionaire permit for the Route of the Hiawatha, which has been held by Lookout Recreation, is expiring at the end of this year. And so the St. Joe District administers that permit, and they are working with the regional office to put out a prospectus, and we'll see where that goes. So the other thing, on January 27th, coming up a week from this Saturday, is the poker ride in the West End taken out of Hagen, and they go up to the snowmobile shelter up in Randolph Creek, down up Rainy Dominion and back down the rail grade to Hagen. And that attracts, depending on the snow conditions and the road conditions, somewhere between 300 and 400 sleds come and ride for that weekend. And they used to be, the route that the club really liked was taken off from up off of Randolph Creek, going over into Idaho, down by the fish hatchery there at Shoshone, up the rail grade, come up by Lookout Pass Ski Hill, and then back down the rail grade all the way to Hagen. But that requires people to have the stickers for both Idaho and Montana. And for people that are not gonna ride all the time in Idaho, but only maybe for families that come, say they have 4 sleds, have to purchase those stickers, and I thought Nancy Parkin told me they were about $80. And if that's the only time you're gonna ride in Idaho, either you don't go on the poker ride or whatever. And the Snowmobile Club was trying to work with Idaho and the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks on both sides to see could they get a variance or a waiver just for that weekend for the event, that whether you had an Idaho registration or a Montana, could that be reciprocal for that event for the weekend, and they didn't want to do it. So that changed the route now to stay just on the Montana side.
Is it both Fish Wildlife didn't wanna do it, or wanna do it, was one receptive and the other not?
Well, I don't know that, Tim, for sure, but
I can ask her.
yeah, I'm pretty certain that the Idaho people certainly didn't want to allow Montana riders to ride there without the Idaho permit. And I don't know about Idaho people riding on the Montana side, so they had to
You'd think
change
they'd
some-
do something like,
A
You know,
3-day, just, who cares?
yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah, or
3-day
one
permit,
permit
you
per
know.
family or something if you had 4 or 5 cats in
Or
a
just
family.
have the snowmobile club say, we will donate you about this much.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Call it good, I mean.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the club really worked with that and wanted to get it, but they couldn't, and it seems odd that for one weekend out of the year that there couldn't be a
Yeah.
reciprocal, but didn't want to go, so I don't know where the club, well, they changed their route, that's what they did, but that was really a pretty route
Yeah.
that went up, over, down to the fish hatchery and up, and was, I think, a little nicer ride than just going up Rainy. And then people also, could go up Rainy Dominion, because a lot of those people that come in, they come in Friday night to register, and they ride Friday night locally, then they're in the event Saturday, and usually then they ride Sunday morning and then go home Sunday afternoon. And so if they hadn't ridden Rainy Dominion during the ride, then that day they'd run
They
up,
could do that.
they go play, and so it really gave people a nice weekend of riding. The other thing that I have, last year at the, when we had our Red Bull public meeting in St. Regis, the end of March, Steve Young came up and was talking about wanting to do something with the fish pond there in St. Regis at St. Regis Park, as far as trying to clean that out and make it so it's a viable pond to stock fish in. And I said that we would do some kind of partnering with him to help do that. And so we got kind of off kilt with it, but we're back on, and I know that he is applying for a Fish, Wildlife, and Parks grant to get some funding, and John Hansen from our office, our fisheries biologist, and Lab Notech, I think, from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, are helping Steve put that grant together. And I have been able to find from the forest, I think Heather Berman is gonna give a little bit of money out of her rec account here, and I think the fisheries people are gonna give some money. So there's $5,000 from the Lolo that's gonna be contributed toward helping get that pond. So if they get the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks grant, I don't know how much money that is, plus a little bit that they've been, we should be able to make that a nice
Yeah.
pond where that could be stocked for kids fishing. And
What
then-
do they need to do to it, Carol?
I think it's all sludge, it's got a lot of sludge in it, and it's gotta
Dredge it
be
out.
deepened.
When we did it the first time, Willie, they brought in an old 22B that Dick Benson from down Thompson Falls donated, and Mike Lewis just had a drag line on it and pulled whatever he could pull, logs, whatever was in there, and I know we didn't get half of them. in fact, Mike ended up tipping the 22B over, hooked a big one there and didn't let loose of it and tipped it over on its side, but I know there's still a lot of, and that's been, well, how long was it? God,
50 years.
Yeah,
60.
yeah.
It's
Well,
left over.
Donna and I've been married 43 and it's been there all of that, so.
Mill burned in 48.
Yeah.
So it's probably even sludged up more.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then another one that I'd like to do when we get this one done first would be that pond at Savanac, which we've stocked
Oh, yeah.
for kids up there. It's not very deep either, and it needs to be deepened to be, for a to maintain fish, and would, provide opportunities not only for kids, but for a lot of older people that no longer can get out, crawl down banks to get along streams and stuff, so it provides some nice opportunities for
Yeah.
both.
They put an aerator in there and, to get rid of the seaweed and stuff, but it's still it's just thick in there. Again, I know the muds must be deeper than the water.
Is that natural?
Yeah, it's a spring, I think it comes out of Keith Creek, doesn't it, Tim?
It's they're tapping the water table that's all through that area, and the water table has enough hydrostatic pressure that it just fills up.
And here, Jerry. This is the right room.
A lot of people here.
Hi, Jerry. And then I just have one other thing, is that I met, Dave Haddis and I met last week with Chris Hancock. He's the patrol captain for our law enforcement. And certainly been, after we lost our resident law enforcement person, went to Powell, Idaho, they redrew the boundaries of where people are going to be placed. And so our nearest Forest Service law enforcement, since we no longer have one on the district, is Missoula or Trout Creek. So we have a large area
No man's
here
land.
without any really any coverage, other than just those people try to come if we have something that is fairly significant, and we call them, they'll come and provide coverage. Say we have a suspicious fire start, or we discover major vandalism or something, but we don't have anybody here, and been trying to get that. And I talked both, Tim Garcia was going to talk to the regional office, to Leanne, and he told me the other day that he has, and he's talked to the, I don't know the correct caption, but law enforcement, and it's not going to happen. We're not going to get somebody. There just isn't funding in the program. That law enforcement is all funded nationally, and they're not going to be moving people. We thought there was a possibility maybe at one time, as the activity in the Bakken slowed down and they had law enforcement over there, that maybe they would redistribute some of those, and we might get one back here in the Superior area. But that doesn't look to happen, Tim told me. And so a couple things that Tim has done and is trying to help is they added $1,000 to the co-op agreement here for Mineral County. And so Chris told me that they signed a 5-year agreement with you folks for $7,700 a year, if that's correct. So added $1,000, and he said that he was looking for a surplus truck that could be available to the county at a sizable discount, and I don't know what a sizable discount is, so that would provide some off-pavement capabilities that maybe the vehicles that the sheriff's office has would extend.
So like a
that.
patrol vehicle truck, not like a 2.5-ton water truck or something.
No, it'd be like a
Four-wheel drive
just a
pickup.
Okay.
four-wheel drive pickup, and
So someone when they jump in and pull out of GSA auction or something like that, maybe.
yeah, or even one that's being
Turned
yeah,
in.
that would be turned
with
in,
low
but
mile.
still has low mileage or has some use in it left. And then still trying to figure out, you know, how we might get some law enforcement coverage here. Looks like, in talking to Chris and talking to Tim, what we're gonna try and pursue is, we would call them a reserve law enforcement. And what that would be is that somebody who has another job is their primary function, and that they have been through the official training down in FLETC and have had the training, in a percent of their time would be law enforcement, but they would not be full-time, but they would be 3/4 recreation or 3/4 fire or whatever they do, and then 25% of their time, so that you'd still, and they'd have all the law enforcement quals. So that looks to be like the best path for the future, and so we're gonna pursue that and see if we can help with that. Other than that, you know, we're now, we don't know a lot about this, but something new, that we're working in pods. And I don't know if you've heard that term. Lori may have, if I've talked a little bit about it, but we don't know a lot about that, because it's just something new with the new administration, and the regional office is working through that. And what that is that we're gonna be working, this pod is with, our pod is gonna be the Kootenai, the Lolo, the Bitterroot, and the Flathead is the 4 forests that are gonna be in the pod that we're gonna be working out of. And Leanne is gonna address us today at 1:30, and I expect that I'll hear more information about that. And I think it doesn't mean that we're gonna be sending people from here to the Kootenai or wherever, but I do think that it could mean, and I'll have more information, that however our timber targets and that, and our different targets come down, maybe this pod will have a target that, and then it'd be, however these 4 forests will work with that, but they'll be somehow sharing resources amongst these 4 forests to meet our program of work. And I'm not sure just how that's gonna work, but I expect to be finding out more. But that's the pod that we've been assigned to, and stay tuned as I learn more. Don't know how that's gonna exactly work, but we'll see.
That pod works the way it's supposed to. It should benefit us, because we do so much of the program on the Lolo and even the Kootenai this year with fires and everything, that should benefit us. A lot of those areas, as everybody knows, they don't produce much. And, it has the appearance of helping our situation here, especially on the Lolo and the Kootenai.
So we'll be waiting to hear more. I don't know much about it at this time, but, so unless there's more questions for me, that's the update that I have for you all.
Reading some of that.
We'll have some maps.
I'm gonna put Willie
Back and forth in the National Parks Board and stuff, but anyway, that bullet item down that is that the RAC process is on hold and not going anywhere then, so.
Yeah, we've not, Secure Rural Schools has not been reauthorized, and we haven't heard any more about that, other than.
But they're stopping the process for RAC appointments and nominations and that too. I mean, that went on hold because.
Well, we've taken applications for it, and we've submitted them, and we do have just barely enough members to have a RAC, but since it's not authorized, there's no meeting or anything.
I understand, but does that, just because it's not authorized to do that, does that stop the selection process for the RAC committee? Does that have to stop?
In case it was to be reauthorized, and you don't have a
Because
RAC
it-
committee,
it gets
there's
thrown
no
on the writer
sense.
at any one little time, and then then if you gotta pick up the process of the nominations, or somebody back there picking it up, and you're starting the thing,
I don't know about that, Tim, other than I do know we have enough members to, if we get reauthorized, we have enough members in the various categories to stand up a committee.
But some of the others, do they not? Some of the other racks.
I suspect there's others in the country that do not. But we have just enough members that have been submitted and approved.
But we're tenuous. I mean, if there's one person that exits for.
So the applications that have been sent in, they've been approved, or, because I sent in one 6 years ago and
Haven't never
heard.
received.
Yeah, well, they, as far as we know, they've been approved, but if the RAC gets reauthorized, then you people would be seated.
so we'll be notified if,
Yes.
okay.
Mhm. Rachel sent it in, and because you and Kevin Chamberlain and I forget who all, Kip Rugg
Mm.
was one. And we have just enough members in the different categories to be accepted. So other than that, I guess I should schedule my next
Okay.
meeting while I'm here.
Yeah.
Casey's here, but
I'll let Casey know.
would the 16th of February, which would be open for me.
16th of February,
Mhm.
put you on there.
9 o'clock?
Okay.
What's about my benefit?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Mineral County. We're calling in, I guess we have an appointment with you around this time to visit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
This is Roman Zalawi, Commissioner, and President is Dwayne Simons, Commissioner, and Lori Johnson, Commissioner, and then we've got Representative House District Denley Logie, and we have Emily from MSU Extension, and Mr. Jerry Stroot, business owner, Tim Reed, County Land Planner, and contractor, Mr. Warnken, Donnie Warnken. So that's who's present in the room, and we're glad that we could get you on the phone. And so, we just had a few questions regarding the grant.
Sure. Thank you. I apologize. We've changed our phones over, so I apologize for having some technical stuff. So I apologize for being a little bit late. This is AC Rockland Community Grants Bureau Chief from the Community Development Division, and
I'm Tosh Weismiller, the program coordinator for the Montana Main Street program.
Okay. Well, we got
so
you.
I heard. Good.
Oh, go ahead, Emily. You want to start off with anything? Or?
So we were just kind of wondering, from the letter that you sent, of the disapproval, I guess, what areas in our application had room for improvement and what we could do differently to have a successful application.
Absolutely. So thank you for taking the time to join this call, and it's really an opportunity that we like to offer for any application for any of our programs that does not receive funding for whatever reason, because we want to continue that relationship and see if there's any opportunities for other resources in the division, in the department, outside, but any opportunities for to see if we can help answer questions about considering coming in for another round. So that's always an option for some of our grant programs. So one of the things that we've had recently in CDBG is some projects who have come in for working capital, which I think was a portion of your request, where we, near the end of the project, really couldn't justify and document that the funds for the working capital, the debt reduction or debt, repurposing was directly linked to that creation or retention of jobs. So it's important to me, as you all, I think you're all aware, the national objectives from HUD and the program requirements for ED, that we really link the scope of work to the creation and or retention of jobs depending on the project. So I believe that about $100,000, correct me if I'm misspeaking, was for working capital, which was a reduction of some debt that you had, the business debt, And that is something that we, like I said, had just some challenges with in the past projects. And so typically projects for ED we can show, and the grantee can show, and the subrecipient in some cases can really document and show how, for example, construction of a building, rehabilitation of a building, purchasing of equipment are really linked to that creation and retention of jobs, which is what HUD is looking for. So that is why at this time we couldn't fund this project, because of that working capital piece of the request.
So is that, this is Jerry, I'm the owner, so is that the only thing that held it back then?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I think your other requests were you were going to expand the building, right, and do an equipment purchase,
Yes.
right? And then the other question, I think we had some emails exchanges. So the creation of jobs. So we want to make sure. So there's a couple things. So the grant or loan, depending on the situation, would be linked to, like I said, creation or retention of jobs. But in your proposal, you had creation and retention, which is fine, because that happens often. We really want to make sure that, like I said, the creation of the jobs is directly linked to, in your case, expansion of the building or equipment purchase. And then also the retention. So the retention piece is about if we didn't do the scope of work that in your case you were proposing, didn't expand, didn't purchase that equipment, which may provide direct training to those staff, would those jobs be actually lost? We have to document that to show retention of jobs as directly linked to that grant or loan from the ED program. And then again, 51% of the jobs that are supposed to be created or retained are should or need to be either made available is the language, made available or given to, made available, better word, to those who are LMI individuals, and then we have documentation associated with that. Part-time, these have to be permanent, full-time positions. That's also in the regulations and the requirements of the program. And in some cases, you may say, oh, we have a part-time position here and a part-time position here. We can look at two part-time positions being considered a full when we look at that. So that happens sometimes where someone says, we're going to create, let's say, 8 jobs, 6 of them are full-time, 2 of them are part-time, but they're permanent. We would take those 2 part-time permanents and we consider that a 1 job. So that's always an option. I wanted to throw that up because that's a common question. I think that's in our application guidelines and manual clarifying that. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that direct link of what your proposal is to the creation and retention, and the working capital piece, the coming into us to refinance another loan is something that in the past we have really struggled with documenting to HUD, how that directly links to that creation or retention of jobs. How does that lead to economic development and job creation retention?
Well, the interest you save on that 100,000 would almost pay for another part-time person. And that's the reason why we were doing that. Paying off the existing loan. I guess
was that exist? But
the other thing is the retention of jobs. I don't really understand that, why that's such a big thing, because if I feel if a company's going to lose jobs, I mean, that means they're going backwards. I'm going forwards. I've doubled my gross in 2 years, and I'm just.
He's busier than heck.
Yeah. I'm trying to put this all in one bundle so I can keep up with it, and I guess I just don't understand the retention part of it of jobs. To me, it just seems like if you're going to get rid of people, that means your company's going backwards. So And to me, to invest in a company that's going backwards is stupid, to put it blunt. But that's the part that I just don't really understand. Go ahead.
The retention piece is coming directly from HUD. I'm happy to send that if you need kind of some more clarification on that. I'm just trying to make sure I speak clearly. I'm actually in CDBG Basics from HUD and looking at that specific language. I think it's also in our program guidelines about the documentation needed to show that the retention piece. Give me a few minutes here, but so I hear your concern, and I hear your concern about kind of moving forward and looking for opportunities to reduce that debt that you have and that high interest rate. One of the things that we were talking about here in the division, are there other options that we can recommend that may be other opportunities to help with that reduction of the interest rate on debt? Do you have any thoughts, Tosh? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Tosh Weissmiller. So we wanted to look into some other resources that may be available within Commerce and without. You're probably familiar with the Big Sky Economic Trust Fund. That is a program for economic development in the Department of Commerce here. They do fund off of jobs created, job training, workforce training, equipment, and I believe that they also do the working capital pieces on a regular basis. So that seems like a better fit, especially for that working capital, but that's in the Business Resources Division of Commerce, and we did reach out to them. Right now they do have limited funds, but it looks like for a project like this in the summer of 2018, of course, again, I respect your timeline and the need to expedite this quickly, but they're kind of down to the bottom of the barrel on their funds, but by summer they should get more coming in, and of course, there's the process to apply. So I guess I would encourage you to start a conversation with them, and we're certainly happy to facilitate that, and you're not just calling blindly. We can work with them to try to arrange a convenient time for you to try to determine the next steps, what kind of funding they have, and how some of these components of your application fit in with their funds, and when you would submit an application if indeed they do have a replenishment of funds in summer. I believe it's July 1st. So, that could be just, realistically, you could be moving forward on an application with that within the next couple of months, depending on their suggested timeline. Other than that, there's also USDA rural development. Again, Emily and most of you are probably really familiar with this as a resource and may have explored it. Gus Byram works in our office here and was digging into that resource and looking to speak with a direct contact there. So rather than just kind of tell you to call them, he was trying to find out more specifics. Unfortunately, he was getting some lag time getting a response, and so that's something that we're continuing to look into for you. And Gus unfortunately wasn't able to be here today, but I will follow up after this call with Gus and make sure that we're getting to you, Emily and Jerry, the information that you need to reach out to them. That's another regular resource that is used for projects such as this. So I would say those are two really solid leads, of course, with the caveat of timeline on your end. And we'll follow up in an email so you have that just to move on.
So I want to be kind of clear. Is there funding still available right now through you guys with the CDBG ED program, or is all that funding expended?
Sure. So CDBG economic development, we have recently received, I think we had talked on the phone, we had such a significant delay in our HUD allocation. We do have some funds available for the ED program for this fiscal year. We need to go back to the consolidated plan to make sure we're in line with the funds we said we would allot to economic development. And as you know, it's a rolling application cycle. So we're always looking at applications that come in and ensuring that they meet not only the guidelines, but the national objectives. And then we always go back to make sure we don't have additional funds from previous years, any recaptured funds, which we typically don't have from ED, but sometimes we do. And so, yes, there are some funds available, and as I said, there's ongoing application cycles. So we're always interested in looking at applications.
Okay,
And then to
so,
follow up with your retention question that you had, and I hope I could clarify it, but let me know if I don't. I'm happy to talk further. So the HUD guidance on economic development under CDBG states that for funded activities which retain jobs, there must be sufficient information documenting that the jobs would have been lost without the CDBG assistance, and that one or both of the following applies to at least 51% of the job. The job is held by an LMI person, or the job can reasonably be expected to turn over in the following 2 years, and steps to be taken to ensure that the job will be filled by or made available to the LMI person. So that is the direct language. So it's about there's sufficient documentation showing that without that CDBG assistance, so in this case CDBG economic development from the Montana Department of Commerce, that those jobs would be lost. So that's for retention specifically.
That makes sense.
So,
That's just the total wrong-headed approach. This is a project that's trying to expand it. They're not, he's trying to explain, there's not a possibility of losing jobs out here. This is called job expansion. You can't, you're asking him to document something that is just not even in the realm of possibility because of his growth that's happened out there. This is Tim Reed. I'm the planner, but I'm also the sanitarian, and I inspect the place. And we facilitated a brand new sewer out there so that we would anticipate that this growth could be. It's happening. It's there's all the evidence of the world that it's going to happen. To sit there and say that you need a documentation that some job is going to be lost, it's just not in the realm of possibility. You can't put that justification there because all Jerry's done is added people, and I see him out there all the time. So I'm mystified of how this little glitch in a HUD rule that you guys decide in Helena is holding up this project.
and this is Roman Zalawi, the county commissioner. So I don't know how familiar you are with Mineral County. We have 4,200 people in the entire county. We have 7% private land. That's it, to expand, to grow, and to tax. We have two main employers in the entire county, the biggest one being a local sawmill in St. Regis that's still wobbly on its legs, and a local hospital also wobbly on its legs. The only thing in the county that seems to be booming is Superior Meats. And so he needs, if you want to say he needs to help retain jobs, I guess we could reapply and say if he doesn't get financial assistance, he goes broke because he can't keep up with the interest. Maybe that would satisfy the HUD technicality. But he needs, so I'm really confused in your letter when it says Montana's CDBG Ed program is designed to stimulate economic activity by assisting Montana's private sector to create or retain jobs for low to moderate income Montanans. The Mineral County application on behalf of Superior Meats did not align with program parameters to directly stimulate economic development in the community and was not selected. That's asinine to me. 10 jobs in Mineral County, that raises exponentially our unemployment rate by possibly 2%. This is, to me, your poster child for what exactly an economic development grant from the Montana Department of Commerce is actually all about. And so I don't know if you guys have ever been out here, but this is a great, great project that would really meet all of these parameters of improved jobs for low-income Montanans that don't have work. They have to drive to Missoula, or they're all on welfare. 10 jobs is huge in Mineral County, and the only thing that's going better than anything else is superior meats. People, the livestock industry is growing. People in western Montana bring their elk and their cows and their hogs from Dixon, from Sherlaw, from Missoula, and he's having to turn people away. His employees that he does have, he's having to have them work 50 hours a week. So if you want us to say that if he goes out of business, we don't retain jobs, we've got a great argument for that. I mean, he's got his nose to the grindstone, he needs help. And I beg you guys to reevaluate this application, because if Governor Bullock needs to come take a look at it, he's going to go, oh my God, this is perfect. Perfect.
This is Representative Logie, and I think if your program is to try and bail out the losers, we've got a bad program, and maybe I'll have to try and go back to Helena and try and change what we can, if that's the idea, is to bail out the losers. This is a winner. We have a different changing market for the meat market, and I think Jerry Strutt's trying to be progressive, and he's trying to capture the demand that's coming out of Missoula for better meats and local meats and naturally grown. And we've got a demand there for about 600 hogs a year and about 120 cows a year. Well, that's going to help the agricultural market of western Montana, and that's what Montana is based on, is agriculture. And I think you people have to be progressive and realize he's trying to expand the market on barbecue sauce. He's trying to expand the market he's got a catering business that the community and Missoula community uses a lot, and he can expand that. And this is just a winning project. And I think, if the rules are a little tight, if we can try and rewrite some of the application, but this is the kind of a project you need to get behind. And as our commissioner said, it's a poster child. And I do think, I'm sure Governor Bullock would love to come out and look at this and see this is what we need to do for a community that does not have jobs, does not have a thriving economy. It needs a place to put people to work, and this is one of the winners.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that context and that information that you're sharing, and I think there's an opportunity here for you guys to come back in. As you know, the CDBG Economic Development Program does $25,000 per job. So in your case, with however you said 10 jobs that you were planning to create, did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So for example, that would be $250,000. Any jobs that you can document that that you think that you will retain. You have a good point. I'm not saying you don't have a great point about how do you document that. I had this conversation with HUD recently about how would a business document that. And I think what I've heard you just say sounds like documentation to me about how this CDBG assistance would lead to this retention, or without it, we would not retain these jobs. Just from the description you just said to me about the importance of this business in your community and the impact on the population in your community. So I guess I would say to you, I just heard you say that. So I think that would be great documentation for us. And so if you're going to come in for both creation and retention, or coming in just saying we're going to create 10 jobs, it's $25,000 per job for the economic development program. And then, what you had come in for was expansion, funds to expand, funds to do equipment. In terms of the debt refinancing, that's something, like I said, we're really just looking at more thoughtfully. So if there's an opportunity for maybe to help with BSTF or other programs for the the piece that was the debt refinancing, but then look at the economic development program coming in for the expansion and the equipment, we'd be interested in looking at that application.
Well, that sounds like a plan. I mean, if I can do something different with the debt reduction and get the loan through you guys, the low interest rate is what I'm after mainly, because that'll produce enough money or save enough money monthly to hire more people. So that's my main reason why I'm after this loan, is the low interest. I've been paying so much interest in the last few years that it drives me nuts. It used to not drive me nuts, but now it does. But that's my main goal, was to get this low interest loan, and then it would help me hire more people and
Mhm.
so.
So what we can do, as Tosh had mentioned, we can connect you with some with CSTF. Like you said, we're happy to be part of that direct conversation, setting up any other calls with direct human beings, so you're not being routed to just another program in the ether. So that's something that we're happy to do. We will follow up with Emily. I'm thinking, Emily, you can forward that information out. Let us know if we want to add anybody to that email. And then the other piece is just, I hope that we've provided some more information about what we'd be looking for in an ED application. And it's a rolling application, so we can look at that at any time.
So do we need to resubmit this application? I think that you hear the strong support that the community has for it, and how important it is to this community for this business to expand. As far as the retention, you understand now what that means here to us, and that, Jerry's not looking to have to lay off or anything like that after this expansion is completed. So is this something that we need to rewrite, or is there a section that needs to be edited around that could, speed up this process? Because time is really detrimental to trying to get the project completed before his next busy season comes up.
Can this application be amended?
Appreciate that.
Can it be amended in any way, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Are we out of time, AC, to maybe amend the current application? We're just trying to expedite things, because he's gonna be really
Sure.
busy this summer, and that's when the help is gonna be critical.
I appreciate that. So, yes, you would resubmit an application, but I think you have so much in your application already done that you're probably just going to add a couple of pieces. So just that, you sounds like you're going to have maybe a new dollar amount request depending on what you're looking at for your debt refinancing, maybe coming from another source. So how many jobs, just, refreshing that, how many jobs are you going to create and retain, that what you just described of how the importance of this loan, this low interest loan, and what that would mean for the retention of jobs, and documenting that would mean to your community. You may have an updated implementation schedule, you may have an updated budget, you may have a slightly updated narrative, but it sounds like what you've already done is just going to need a little bit more information and some tweaking.
So,
I'm not hearing what we're talking about is like a major overhaul. But yes, you can submit that application to doc.cdbg@mt.gov. That's how and then the hard copy as well.
do we need to focus more on the hiccup you described being this thing with HUD about retention? Do we need to try to address that point, or does the
I think. Go ahead.
Or does the expanded information you heard about our small county population, et cetera, is that satisfactory, or do we need to go back to that main point you were hung up on the first time about, not a floundering business that needs more retention in there? I mean, do we need to address this retention part?
So so you have the choice. It's up to you. You can come in to apply for ED with only proposing job creation. You can come in only with job retention, or you can come in for both, which your previous application came in for both. If you want to keep doing that, that's perfectly fine. It's just additional kind of information, documentation, what I heard from you just now on the phone about how this expansion, this equipment purchase, this proposal, this CDBG ED assistance will keep those jobs. So yes, that additional information would be great if you're going to propose using this funds for retention of jobs, and that's part of your calculation.
Okay,
So
but
you have 10 jobs you're proposing to create, 5 jobs you're proposing to retain, that's 15 jobs times 25,000. That's what you would come in and request from us for the loan from CDBG Economic Zone.
So you as the
So that
critiquer,
might just,
you're the critiquer, AC, you're the reviewer. What do you recommend we do? Do we come in with just total job expansion, or still do the split, half retained, half expanded? What's your opinion on bettering our chances the second go around with an amended application? We want to help do it right for you, so you can sit good on your end and not have any, this doesn't meet the technical criteria of HUD or whatever. What do you recommend this second
I guess
amendment? Go ahead.
this is Tosh. I'll jump in. If If you are going to remove the debt refinancing piece, which was about $100,000, then you're left with, if I recall correctly, a substantial amount for a composter, some expansion, some concrete, other elements of that expanded retail space. And so it really kind of, how do the numbers pan out there? I know there was another revolving loan fund through the county that was contingent upon this. So when we look at the potential of removing the debt refinancing piece, then what are the dollar amounts left? And then it comes down to that equation of $25,000 per job created or retained. So if you're creating 10 jobs, your business plan and other elements of this application clearly demonstrated growth and need for growth and expansion. So if that number is achieved by the $25,000 per job equation, if you have 10 created, then maybe you don't need to go into the retention part. But if you do need to go into the retention part, then I think, like AC said, with that additional detail of, in order to kind of jump that hurdle of HUD requirements, then that's that secondary piece. We're probably doing math in our head right now, but it seems like if you are indeed creating 10 jobs, and keep in mind, these are full-time jobs, is what the 25,000 equation is considered. So that's the job creation. But then how many jobs full-time are retained? And remember, it's all piecemeal. So if you have 6 part-time jobs, that is considered 3 full-time total jobs. So we need to do the math, and we can certainly help you with that as you're going through this revision to the narrative and the application. Does that make some sense there?
I guess, does that help you know where you need to go, Emily, or?
Yes.
I think Emily's following you pretty well. Jerry, are you?
Yeah, I think we'll reapply and make it right.
Amend the current,
Amend.
When would you like, is there a deadline on our amended application? When do we need to get this into you before it's foregone conclusion?
Like I said, ED is a rolling application cycle, so
Okay.
whenever it works for you all, we will receive that application and review it.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much.
This is Representative Logie again. Do offsite jobs like feedlots, things like that, the added inventory of livestock that needs to come in, is that part of the creation of jobs?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. Is the livestock?
Adding,
Your question, I'm sorry.
adding a bigger demand for livestock, for him to have livestock to slaughter, those jobs are bringing in more livestock. Is that a creation of jobs that would actually be added to the application as well?
I guess he's talking about off-site jobs, maybe kind of ripple effect jobs that might be created due to a bigger facility.
The need of livestock, the need for feedlot work.
And that would be a position that you would also be creating
Well,
in Superior Needs?
there's a need, if he's expanding, he needs more animals. So I'm wondering if the need for those animals, if the farmers' jobs are part of that expansion of creating jobs.
He's talking about
Off-site.
off-site jobs that might be created through the farmers in the area, growing more animals, bringing more animals to the said lot. Is that ripple effect, domino effect of this expansion? Can that off-site job be included?
No, it would be the jobs created at Superior Needs, those permanent jobs created at Superior Needs. Although I will say that narrative, that could be a great part about your narrative to say, by creating these, by expansion, by creating the jobs, so say I'm going to use the 10 number at Superior Needs, we believe that we are going to impact our community in this way, which will have this long-term investment in our community. So that's the other thing that we and HUD are looking at is this a good deal, right? You're a businessman. Is this a good investment? Is this a good investment of federal dollars into a program that's going to have an impact on said community and its population? I think we have discussed that quite a bit this morning, and so that would be a great thing to just add to your narrative. This is the impact of our business doing this in this community. But the direct $25,000 per job is those direct either created or retained jobs in Superior, Maine. So it's like, if Tosh was saying, you say you're gonna create 10 jobs, $250,000 is what you need to do this this expansion and equipment purchase. You get the $100,000 in debt refinancing from another source, then you may only need to come into us for the 10 creation of jobs and the $250,000, for example.
Okay,
That's all I got.
And the other point we wanted to make too, that if you do resubmit this application, because the original time you submitted the application, there was quite a delay because we were waiting on HUD funds. We didn't have those funds here. So there was, a very lengthy delay, and we recognize that. Because we do have the funds now, there won't be that kind of delay
Oh,
this time.
okay.
So if you do resubmit these additional materials, not only are we able to expedite this, but we will be especially mindful of your situation and your
Okay.
need to move forward.
all right. Well, thank you guys for taking the time to visit with us on the phone here.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anybody? Yeah?
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
one more
Sorry.
question from Emily, hang on.
I do have a question. Would you be interested in coming out for a site visit to Jerry's? And I can facilitate that so you can get a look at what we're talking about and how detrimental the project is? I know that.
She-
Feel free to, yes. But
Sorry, we did meet when Deb Damaris was there. She did come out and she did a site visit for the closeout, and she really recommended us to go forward with this project. And so, that's why we thought it was such a good project to pursue. She had came out a couple of different times, and she saw the difference after the last CDBG with the three-phase power was completed out there. And, I think that if you were to come out and look at what our area entails, then maybe you would have a better idea as to why it's so important to everybody here in the room.
thank you for that. I think that would be great. Please, if we can make it work in our some of our schedules, we'd be interested in doing that and see if that works. The other option too is, and I think you included some of them in your application, but photos are also a great opportunity for us to get that view if we aren't able to come out and visit. I didn't realize that Deb went out. That's a great thing that she did, and that gives that opportunity to see things in person. So yeah, feel free to pass that invitation forward, and we'll see what our schedules look like.
Okay, all right.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you guys once again, and we'll be sending you
Thank you.
some,
We'll look.
yeah. Amended paperwork will
Emily,
be
if you have
forthcoming.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said we'll be looking forward to some amended paperwork coming your way.
Perfect. And I was just going to say too that Emily, if you need any help or any clarification, I think I'd be crazy too that we're both available to help.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll also follow up with some more information about maybe some other resources for the debt refinancing piece of your application.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Okay, you guys
Have a wonderful weekend.
take care. Bye.
We can probably push the catering expansion as far as an employee. There's even the possibility, like the composting, to push that as some public safety with the chronic, mention the chronic wasting, because it may come to that. It could be that you would have the only facility around here or something like that. And then, I think the education aspect of when the 4-H is involved, the judging of the carcasses, there aren't many places around that they can actually go in and see that kind of stuff, and that would be, a good point too for community service.
So, maybe you could reach out to Cambridge Homes, get these people out of them. You need 25, 30 letters. Just go get them and
Finally got him to and in writing.
any aspect, get Cross, get Commerce, get anybody and everybody around here.
That money,
I'm like, let's get a semi-form letter out.
I didn't have my letter, so I'd borrow yours.
Oh, that's, it wasn't mine, it's in.
Oh.
And I'll tell you, it sure sounded to me like, and everybody jump in if I missed something there, but, it sounds to me like all you gotta do is show that, you're gonna retain some jobs, obviously.
Not do the debt reduction.
and not do the debt reduction,
Yeah.
and they're gonna send you a check here in about a month or 2 weeks. I mean, I'd jump on it, in my opinion. You know, obviously, we're, from a construction standpoint, we got permits and all the things that we're gonna have to jump through to make your time frame. We're gonna be under the gun again already. So, man, I think I'd jump on it while it's fresh in their mind.
Yeah.
In their mind.
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
And
They
I
got a
really
little work
don't
out
think
today.
there's many amendments that need to be made.
Generally, I think you opened their eyes a little bit too
Yeah.
about reviewing some things at Helena. You know, there was a whole change in the conversation right there when you
Gotta
said
make
that.
them
Well,
think a little.
and the other total disconnect is that they've spent how many thousands of dollars on the other CDBG project and throw the one that
Yeah,
is so
yeah.
logical
Yeah.
follow-up out the door.
Yeah.
I mean, you just put this investment out there and you go, oh,
Yeah,
oh, gee.
that's as far as we go, yeah.
Did I hear something on the news last night? There was a sidewalk approved in Missoula out of this?
I
Really?
wouldn't doubt it, I wouldn't doubt it.
It retained the job.
Yeah,
Right.
somebody's gonna have to shovel that sidewalk.
You count homeless there, right? They work on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
It certainly sounded to me like, you know, take that debt reduction out of there.
Yeah.
It'll certainly help us with other avenues for you to go. Get the few amendments in there and they're gonna pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But, you know, just like last year when we were doing all this stuff, there was funding, and then the funding went away and everything stopped.
Right.
Right now, the money's there.
That's what they said, money's there, so let's,
And yeah, when that funding stopped and that new administration came in, that was our chance, because she was familiar with the area, she knew everything. She was really behind the project, and so I think that was really a make or break kind of point for us.
I agree.
But I think there's very few amendments that need to be made into the application, and I'll get right on them and get it resubmitted in, and
Yep.
I know that it's one of those things,
Lesson
Kevin always
learned.
says, drive it right to them and drop it off,
To them and
and,
meet face to face. They just flat told me that the
Yep.
fairgrounds fell on their place because we weren't showing up in Helena and talking and meeting and schmoozing.
well, and I did that with this one, but it was the former,
Yeah,
Right.
then
lady,
they did a
so-
transition on you.
Yeah.
Names and places are fresh in their mind right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You can get that amendment to them personally,
No.
you know,
And I
will
was
be-
able to talk to her supervisor yesterday, so she knows, she'll go back and discuss that too. So
Right, I'll be in Helena, the 6th, 7th, and 8th of February, so I'll probably be planning on dropping it off then.
So we'll be at
Couple weeks.
Mako 12, 13, 14 if you happen to come that week instead, then we could go with you.
well, it's in Billings though.
Oh, that's right, it's a billing. Never mind.
that's kind of on the way.
Might be as far as you get.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Gary. Yep. Hang in there. Yeah. We'll get it done.
11 o'clock and Department of Revenue Field Office update with Deb Reesman. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Okay.
You want me to come up there?
Come on up
Yeah,
here.
you're welcome to.
these chairs are more comfortable. So
It's nice to meet you. I don't believe I've been in front of this board. Might have talked to somebody on the phone, but maybe not. We haven't really had many issues or anything that I'm aware of. So my purpose here today, Tim asked if I would come and discuss the office closure of the property assessment office in St. Regis that's scheduled for next October. And I think what I'm interested in knowing from you is what your understanding of that closure is. Do you know what that means to you?
Sort of. Some people in the room probably have a better grasp on the full, real impacts than I do, but are you gonna, if people need help, they're gonna have to travel where? I mean, we don't have a whole lot of computer people out here in Mineral County, so I didn't know where would people drive to if they needed.
Well, what's going to happen is the office in St. Regis will close. As Lois is is retiring the end of October anyway. So that coincides with her retirement. Her duties that she does now will be continue to be done. They will just be done out of the hub office, which at this time we think will be Missoula. And there's a lot of things that we don't know yet, but so all of those activities, all of our statutory obligations to the county are going to continue. It's just instead of you picking up the phone and calling Lois in St. Regis, you'll pick up the phone and talk to somebody in Missoula. And it won't, Lois is going, she of course knows the county, knows, and that's very helpful. She's going to be gone anyway. So as far as the appraisal goes, Polly, the appraiser now, she has been identified as an employee that we feel is a good candidate for teleworking. So she will still be appraising this county. She'll still have a presence in this county. She knows the county. She knows the people. In fact, she's the first appraiser since, I think, Joyce Weaver that's actually lived in the county. And it's been a very good thing. Before that, we had brought, people in from out of county to cover the work, and that never seems to, it's hard for me to manage, and it never seems to work as effectively. There's not that ownership. So Polly will still be the appraiser. She'll continue to do the things she does today. She will be working, she'll have a state car, she'll have a mobile tablet, so she'll be in the field doing, her work. She'll have a computer at her home that she'll load information into our database. So there isn't, it's really not a drastic change, and all of the things that we do for you now, we will continue to do. Our office won't be in St. Regis, it'll be in Missoula. Now, as far as customer service and you're concerned about where will people go, that's a concern that, Lois and Polly and I have as well, because we want to make sure that there is customer service. It seems with the budget cuts that we've had, those are the things that are getting cut, is the customer service. Income tax, they're not printing the forms and mailing them out anymore. We're not supposed to print them for people. We're supposed to send them to, online. But we all know that there's still those people who aren't computer savvy, aren't computer literate. We don't even have good, adequate cell service in all of Mineral County. Right. So we still, mail those forms out. We'll still, provide property tax assistance to people. And we will make sure that we have that process in place prior to the closure. I can't tell you what that's going to be like. If it'll be a certain day of the week, we'll have someone available, or a couple times a month. We honestly don't get a lot of traffic, or even a lot of phone calls in our office. That's one of the reasons it's targeted for closure. We have 2 people in that office, probably given the FTE that we had to cut statewide, and we have to reallocate the employees that we have remaining to where the work is. This county really is only allocated for like 1 to 1.5 employees. So we don't have the activity here to, in light of the budget cuts, keep the office open. But we will have, our plan is not very solidified, but there will be, you'll have access to assistance, and you'll have numbers and people to call, and we hope to have, be able to offer, this is the day of the month, or, just like you guys do, we're here on Fridays, or, and we'll have, better access. Unfortunately, that's where we're at, given given the budget. I also manage Ravalli County, and we are one of the top 6 or 7 counties in the state as far as growth and activity. And I've lost 2 positions in the budget cuts. And we have a lot more activity than we've had in recent years. So we have to find ways to do the work with less people. And so the restructuring into regional hubs is kind of a trend that's been occurring in state government. And now that's where we're at.
So on the mechanics side of things, when we are filing subdivisions and they're filing deeds, we might not have picture perfect mechanism right now, but they are getting into Lois's hands. The surveys are getting to the office out there. They're being processed in a fashion that at least lends to us right now that we can have some expectation of when that information is going to come back to us. Especially a simple bit of information like a geocode, because the geocode is going to be a driver for the sewer permit, for the address. We want to be able to have that, and I'm predicting that that's going to be kind of a lost in this process, is that we're going to be able
timeliness of receiving that information.
Timeliness, but just the mechanics of it. I mean, right now we have somebody that we know where. And the clerk and recorder's office is saying, this is the person, we just hand it off, we get that information done. Candace and I can call and say that we've platted such a subdivision, we need a potential geocode number and work that out with Lois. And so just handing off those deeds, handing off the plats, the surveys, and the cartography part of it and everything else, that's really gonna gap us. And if we're going to revert back to about once a year of getting that updated cadastral and that information. Our mapping guy is downloading cadastral every 2 or 3 months. If right now I know it's not predictable and it's not a thing, but it's not just a once a year process it hasn't been for Mineral County, so it's been doing that. But
Right, with Lois's processes splits, subdivisions and legal description changes, not just straight transfers of property, but she sends that information in once a month to a cartographer, and that will continue to happen. But as far as picking up the information, like now she goes down to the courthouse and picks up the deeds and paperwork. That's one of the things processes we need to put in place, and we're considering, several options, and maybe we're hoping you guys can help us find the best process, whether it's that Polly picks them up, weekly or twice a week, or however often you think is appropriate, or if there is any means of us receiving those electronically, if they're scanned, and can be emailed, if that's quicker, more efficient. Those are things we want to work with you to make sure we have a process in place so that you aren't, being held up because you're waiting for a geocode.
So is that going to be a DOR person that's going to continue to do that?
Yeah, the splits and transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's going to be somebody that has a current workload right now, and this is going to be added to it.
Right, because that's what's happening in every office.
So, so just realistically speaking, it's going to slow down. But that, maybe that's what we're going to have with it. So, maybe equally important is just the mechanics of getting it done. But
maybe we can work with
3 or 4 people that we know 6660 all by heart, and we know how to, and
Well, my hope is you'll establish that relationship too with the person doing that, and that we have one, person that's dedicated to Mineral County that will be familiar with what's, the things. Now, they're not going to be right at the start because, like Lois was, but over time they will. But that would be the way if this wasn't happening, there's going to be somebody new stepping into Lois's shoes anyway. So So we're gonna have that transition regardless, but my hope is that when we set the person that in the hub office, which at this point we believe is going to be Missoula, that person works Mineral County all the time. So they're familiar with, they'll get a relationship with you, Tim, and with Stacy and Mary, and so you're not dealing with just whoever answers the phone.
The other, I'm old, but I'm not the old timer. The longevity here and everything else, if anybody else wants to jump in and stuff. But my understanding and the uniqueness of Mineral County is that we did have the Department of Revenue in the courthouse for a long extended time. Prior to that, which would probably be hard to speak to unless we had maybe Carol Billadou or somebody else, but my understanding is that there was this element of county records that were here and were, the vernacular term and everything else is having a plat book and a plat room. Okay, we have never really officially had plat books in a plat room, but they were there in the 50s and 60s, and they were updated, but they were just an archaic method of doing it. It was just a little bit of hand drawing over here and a lettering system that things got further split and do that. It wasn't like I worked with the Valley County Plat Room for 4 years. I know exactly what, and Sanders County and Lincoln County. I mean, I know what a plat room looks like and does that. And I've been working with Jane Eby to try to, at some point in time, maybe follow up and develop that plat room concept and get that done. But so there was records that I believe were Mineral Counties. They got transitioned in the 60s and the 70s into the DOR being in the building, and quite a bit of those records, were held and set there, and they were on books that were down here in the hallway and different things, and it just wasn't a good system. And like I say, it wasn't this real flat system. And now, but now that Lois has had those larger prints and those different bits of information and things, my concern is that, what's going to be the fate of those documents and stuff, because those documents are going to be extremely helpful for us to try to fill in this gap of ever getting a complete plat book like you would typically expect in
Yeah, and we don't have plat books in our.
But you have larger geo.
But you're right, and those are printed from our cartographers, and updated as splits and changes occur. They're new maps. They're not old, the old maps that were.
I think when the DOR office left here, they took some of the old county ones with them. And I think that's what Tim's talking about.
That's
the big hard covered ones that were in that room there that had.
I'll have to.
Plus, a lot of that belonged to the county.
Because I was
assessor.
here
Yeah.
when we moved from the courthouse. I was the manager then. I don't know of any hard copy books. I know what you're talking about because we have them in Valley County. We left those with the county when we moved. We don't maintain them, haven't for years, and we offered them to the county when we moved. So I'll have to ask Lois if you could see them in our office and show me what they are. But I don't know.
I'm not Mr. Historical. I mean, I knew they were down there, and when Tony and Lois was down here, I knew them. I saw them on the walls. They were there and stuff. But what they physically said is going with us, and what physically stayed, I didn't pay attention to that.
Our old geocode maps. The state took over mass appraisal from the counties in like 73, I believe. So that transition, occurred before my time. But we did maintain in our local offices up until probably 2004, 5. Geocode maps where we would take a paper map out and plot it out and draw it on the map, kind of rudimentary. when GIS came on in the early 2000s, that kind of all went away, and we no longer do any mapping by hand, and we don't maintain any of those maps. They have maps in a map file, but they are our maps that are printed from the cartographers that are mailed to us periodically as changes occur.
Maybe just simply that.
But I could look for the, I could see if I could find out what happened.
To assess what you had out there, review what you had out there and stuff, and if there's a possibility of being able to say, this would be helpful to Mineral County, and then trying to find the approach for the methodology of saying, who to where to what do we have to converse right to or whatever to get them on the same plane with us, is that, yes, those things should go to Mineral County. That's what Steve's trying to facilitate.
Well, if we can find those in our office up there, and we aren't using them anymore, I'm happy to let you guys take them, because I don't want to have to move them.
Yeah.
What about the stuff that belonged to the old county assessors? I don't, even though they're
The
state
roll
employees.
books or something?
Well, all those cards, all those property information, to me, that should stay with Mineral County. It's all Mineral County information.
Right, but there are property record cards.
Are they yours or were they assessors before you took it over?
Well, I don't know, as long as I've been in, they've been,
I know,
the information in our files, the hard copies, we call them the RADs, the residential appraisal cards, which is the original cards that in 73, when we took over and went in the field and hand wrote, it's all handwritten. That was in 73, those were generated in 73. To my knowledge, there's nothing in those property record cards that's prior to that.
I don't know. If it's an answer we need to find out. Because
So we can, yeah, I'll ask that
because
question.
the state promised
and-
when they took over the state assessor that stuff would be property, would be shared or part of with Mineral County back in the 90s or 2000, so.
You got about 8 months to review it.
What's that?
I say you got about 8 months to go through and do some of these checks and balances.
Yeah,
figure out what
and
it is.
if there's information, historic information that the county wants and thinks will be helpful to them, that we don't need to do the work for you, then we're happy to leave that. You can get a copy of our property record card, any property you want at any time off of the internet. You can get copies of our maps off of the internet. And we can, you can request a full, complete set of our maps, from our cartographer.
Will it cost them?
Well, I can put in a request.
I think it shouldn't.
They won't, if we would maybe do that as a one-time at the time that we leave, but beyond that, they're outdated,
Right.
That's why and actually, our cartographers have been instructed not to create the maps every time there's a change, because to print a map and mail it is expenses we're trying to get away from. But if the county wants a set of maps at this point in time, I don't see any reason why we couldn't provide that.
Well, I think one of our other components of this is that Jamie, our examining land surveyor, she has stated to me on a number of occasions that she is willing to help Mineral County basically recreate a set of plat books and update and do that. So I'm gonna at least reach out to Jane and say, if we can meet in the office in St. Regis here before the whole thing gets finished and done. And
Yeah, I
take
hope
a
we
look.
meet several times.
What I would like to know is can Jane see something that is like, boy, this would really be helpful with this long-term project that we're gonna finally return back to a plat book, because I struggle with it, and I.
Everything has gone so digital. I don't know how any of that would be.
You don't digitize 1954 records.
Right.
That's where the old plat book is very helpful.
And see, our records retention for the department is only 3 years. So, we don't, it's all, those files are all electronic. if I can
But-
find
but-
where those old
but-
original
But
records are,
in Ravalli County, you can go into the plat room and you can track a piece of property back to 1906.
because their county has always maintained that.
And that's
we've
what we're
never
trying to
maintained it.
recreate.
Right.
And-
But so you wanted to find those old books that are back pre-73 and bring those up to date?
That's the idea.
When it's all available electronically, do you
No,
iDocs?
it's a different, if it's a different mindset for a person. A person electronically, if he can say, I know that this person owns it right there, and we go back to that person right there, and we're looking for that easement that went across this piece and everything else, and you see the quick claim deed, then that's much easier to find. Maybe Michelle is really good at it and everything else, but we really don't have a mechanism in Mineral County for that.
But all of the recorded documents are in your clerk and recorder's office, right? I mean, that's where we go for
In
that.
in Bibulous big pie in the sky, we clerk and recorder's office that you can't find squatting, I'm sorry. But that's, the nature of the thing is that we have not kept up, we have not digitized, we have not modernized the clerk and recorder's office. It's a hand search
But how
method.
can we help you with that? I mean,
Just-
what do you
just-
need from
just
us so we can
simply-
help you with that?
Simply be able to review your documents that you have in the office out there, and if anything is useful to us, that we could obtain that.
Well, I think that there's no problem with that. If, what the documents that we currently use to do our work
No,
for
we're
you,
not.
we're gonna take with us. I don't think you're gonna find
That, we don't
much
need
out
that,
there.
we don't need that
Yeah.
to a degree. We're probably very gonna take you up on your offer of printing a set of current maps and do that process and stuff, because that would be the end product of these and stuff. But we're trying to fill in this 20, 30-year gap of where records were maintained and you know,
Okay.
it's just that this person bought it, here's the date and time and the book and page number and do that. And in Mineral County, we have not gotten with the program. I don't know when we started indexing numbers and stuff. I know Mary isn't.
That was, late 90s, I believe.
and something
Well,
like that.
the Black Mountain in 97?
That's my understanding. I believe in it.
With that software and everything, so there's a transition when DOR was here, you know, but 60s, 70s, and 80s and stuff, that you can see things consistently in those plat books to the 60s, maybe hardly anywhere in the 70s and things like that, but what you would call our old plat books, they just basically stop at that point. We want to try to fill in that. It's not so much the end product stuff now,
You want that historical data.
it's that midsection in there, if we could put that back together in there, and it's like a monumental task, and JEB goes, yeah, I'd like to do that. We're like, for you.
Yeah, that
That's a cost
sounds
to the county,
overwhelming.
right?
Huh?
That's a cost to the county, right? Because the state is cutting, so now we have extra costs. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not
So
saying
JEB's
that.
doing it
I'm
for
saying,
free?
trying to establish something for Mineral County that they have never had, to other than some short, you know, a period of time back here when it was done in such a way that it really doesn't lend you to anything. It's just just take those records of, you know, I know what, like I say, I know what those plat books look like in Nevada County, and, you know, when people come in and they wanna know all about this stuff,
But our Department of Revenue Office never did anything with those plat books in Rhode Island. They're all
and I
created
understand that,
by
but,
the county.
you know, you basically tell people in Mineral County now, go find yourself an abstractor and let them try to follow the paper chase on that thing. Some people would be satisfied if they just opened up the plat book and said, look, this guy, I wanna buy this piece of property, and here's all the people that owned it from back to there. And that's a typical process in Mineral County, we just don't have it. But if there's a possibility.
Well, I
that
think
there's
if we
records-
have anything that we aren't using that is historical records for the county, we certainly won't, you know, we'd be happy to leave them with you, so, and let me ask some questions about, you know, where those records went, because we didn't take them with us. We don't have the old roll books and things, you know,
You know, there's two roll books here, but I don't, you know,
yeah. And
there was a whole lot of records in that room, because it was basically all put in there, and there wasn't a section that said, this is all Minot County and this is all DOR.
Yeah.
It is, they got stuck in there, and I remember the area maps and the plat maps and everything else, I remember them being on all the shelves and stuff, and if that stuff is just gonna.
I thought we left those with you when we
No.
moved. Are you sure?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure of anything.
I know. Because
it
we
wasn't
stopped
me.
using those. Those are old Mylar maps.
Yeah, but Deb, if you, so, I'm sitting here trying to sort out a lot of things with the Chicago-Milwaukee Railroad, because they pieced it up,
yeah.
and the stupid state didn't challenge the dudes and take them to court. They
Yeah,
should have, and it was a
yeah.
big stupid mistake that they didn't, and it still makes me mad. But the book that really told you what was going on there was, we have an NP book with all of the right-of-ways and all the things that go with it, and it tells you crossings and has a lot of good historical information. There used to be a Chicago-Milwaukee book, and that was sitting out down in the hall, and it walked off. And so at that point in time, that's why my only involvement is that this is ludicrous that this stuff is sitting out in the hall for public access without anybody looking at it. So we piled it off into an office and put it in there, and it's kind of set that way, since then. And we haven't really kind of got back to the bigger project of assembling all these historical records and making sense of them and putting them together and stuff. But I just don't want to lose an opportunity where, geez, if we would have just been able to have this process of developing plat books could have been 10 times faster than what we have to do. Because if we have to go and look up individual records in the clerk and recorder's office to get that down there, it really doesn't work. So. But I don't know.
And we haven't been maintaining anything like that in a book that you could take and have that for a year. I mean.
I know, I understand that, but
Yeah.
I still think there might be a period and section in there that information.
Well,
is there.
definitely, I will, that office up there's not that big, so I'm sure we can see them if they're there.
Just a chance,
and then, maybe, I don't know if Lois would recall what happened to them. I know in Ravalli County, we offered any of those old documents, and they had a basement full of them, and we left them, in the basement. I don't think they wanted them, but
If they're smart, they wanted it,
yeah.
if they're not.
And I think, they may have offered them to the museum as well. I don't know. But let me do some looking and do some research for you. And, we don't want to take your historical data, but we do, anything that we are using that helps us do the work, will go with us.
I don't think we're necessarily, that's not what we're desiring. We're desiring a time period and a whole.
Okay.
What did I miss, Michelle?
Nothing.
Thank you.
What about the computer system as it has it now? You have a state system that has the Orion on it and does the downloads. What about in the county? Will that county system go into Missoula?
We don't physically have a county computer in the office anymore. We access it through the cloud. And so that will continue to happen through the cloud. It's my understanding that, we will continue to, I think the state's looking at the process of Black Mountain to Orion. Lois is typically, in smaller counties, it's common that the Department of Revenue person works in assessor. In the larger counties, we don't get into the county doesn't want us in their computer system. So we're trying to clarify roles and duties in the systems, but at this point in time, we're going to continue to download the information from our system into the Black Mountain system, and make sure that those are balanced, so that you guys can do your billing.
I thought Missoula County is Tyler and not Black Mountain.
And they have switched over, but we can still work with the Black Mountain vendor there. Ravalli County is Black Mountain, and several of the
So the
several of the.
updates will still be as they are on addresses and that the way Lois has been doing them currently. or-
Mhm, mhm.
Well,
We will still download addresses and legals and,
But that's gonna be a weak link, because we have a subdivision, we create parcels, it doesn't sell for a year, and then Candace and I are assigning an address, and we're able to have a, good direct relationship with Lois, but
well, I want you to have a good direct relationship with Sally or whoever's gonna be in the school.
do that
subdivision, she
because
puts
I mean, we
zeros
fight
on.
that constantly, where somebody says, I got this address off of Cadastro, and we're going,
Oh, I
it's
know.
wrong.
Yeah,
And we just duke it out all the time with
It's
them.
always
yeah.
And it wastes our time, and it's like, the one thing I can say now about addressing and everything else, and it's Judy's fault, because she says, you need to fix it, but that's okay. I won't hold it against you,
Everything's my
Judy.
fault.
But that we have a defendable, good addressing system now, so if somebody comes in with something that's wrong, it's like, it's not us. you know,
Right.
It's on somebody else.
I know Lois gets those requests quite often to change cadastral, which is a good thing about cadastral now, because, and we hear it in River Valley all the time too. I can't close on this property until that address is correct on the website.
Yeah.
You know, so so that it is updated, nightly. So those changes get there, once we do them in our system, the cadastral.
And is the state office in Missoula in the courthouse, or are they
No.
outside, like?
They're in Palmer.
So by the VA, by the VA.
Yeah.
Driver licensing.
Oh,
The conclave.
Yeah. Behind Target.
Yeah, no, I do in the Fusion District.
So, there are very few, we moved out of the River Valley County Courthouse in 2005, and then we moved out of the Mineral County in 2007? 2007. And most in the counties, what happened is counties all grew and they didn't have room for us, and so we moved out because in many cases we weren't paying rent to the counties. So
There just was a little bit of uniqueness where the transitioning between county assessor and president,
Right.
state assessor and everything, all happened in the same office in the same place. And that's what's unique about this one, is that it wasn't just like, it split and, just stayed with us and then,
yeah, Sally Joe was the last elected assessor,
Right.
and Joyce.
Joyce wasn't
the
elected.
deputy. She wasn't elected.
No.
She was.
She went to the state.
She did.
so,
I know.
I'm not the knowledgeable person, but.
So does River Valley County or Missoula County, do they scan then those changes over? You said about, updating maybe, because right now Lois comes in and takes those from my office.
Mhm.
You said maybe scanning, and those said there's not gonna be somebody coming out weekly the way that Lois does.
Well, we Polly will be here, so if that works the most efficiently, for her to hand pick those up and get them to Missoula, weekly, then we can continue to do that. If it's more efficient to scan them and email them to us, we would embrace that. It's whatever works best for you guys.
Are there other counties that have lost their departments of revenue that we can talk to and find out what their transition system looks like?
Sure, and that's the really good thing, is that Mineral's not closing until the end of October, and there are 20 counties that are closing ahead of us. So we will have, the department should have a pretty much established process by then. We don't right now. We are in the middle of trying to manage and logistically put all of this together ourselves. So by engaging with you and trying to, we hope to partnership and make this, a good for all of us, and as best as can be. I've been with the department for 30 years, so I've seen a lot of changes. When I came to work in here for the department, we had one computer. And we did all of our address changes manually on a Rolodex. And, you know, we printed our assessment notices locally, sorted them, mailed them out. There's been a lot of changes in 30 years. Change is always hard, and right now I'm working with some, Polly has a lot of anxiety about the change and the transition. My own staff in Ravalli do, because we've lost staff and we've got more work to do than we've had in the last 8 years, and less people to do it. So we have to find ways to do our work better using technology. GIS has been wonderful, aerials, photography has improved. But I'm glad we're not back where we were 30 years ago, so that's what I try to tell them. We have to look for ways, as stewards of public money, we have to look for ways to do our job better and more efficiently. My personal opinion is that the thing that's going to hurt the most is customer service. And that seems to be it's not just a Department of Revenue thing, it's what's happening when you take away the money. You don't get that service. The work still has to get done, so we're going to do it efficiently, and unfortunately that means computers. But I think that, maybe not next year, and maybe not even the year after, but things will smooth out and we will make that transition and we'll be better than we were before. But change is uncomfortable, and
So, on the practical side, like the deeds and that, Candace scans a majority of the deeds. She doesn't have to scan everything. We scan all those deeds out right now because we send them to our maps people.
map, right. Mm-hmm.
Because he needs to know that there was a change and do that. I mean, that's what we pay the maps people for doing that. So hitting send to Matt Pierce for maps, and then hitting send to your new Sally person, it's basically getting done. So there's no reason not to just say we can, but the one thing we'll be careful about is that we don't send our maps guy every deed that is a bare lot, because if there's a bare lot, there's not really an address, there's nothing for him. We'll just let the cadastral catch that up.
Mm-hmm.
So just with a little bit of an amendment thing like that, the deed issue can just get sent electronically. And practically speaking, we have people come right back in and want a plat that's been recorded, so we've been recording plats, and it just amazes you that you record a plat and they're back in 2 months later with an amended lot of a plat.
Yeah.
So we are scanning those right now, so
Excellent.
we're ahead of the curve on that one and stuff.
If that's an option, I think that will be a smoother process, more timely.
So the other thing that we do is that we're gonna need to probably just work with Polly now, because when we issue sewer permits and have that basic information, you make a list and you're not sending a copy of the permit.
To Lois?
Yeah.
Just a list of the.
It's just a list and the address we've assigned and
Geocode.
the geocode, that lot. We send that sewer list, so that is telling Polly that there's a new structure
Right.
on that lot. And she's catching them up a lot faster that way than trying to drive around and figure out where they are.
Right. I think that the county's lucky that we have Polly. Polly has done a really good job of taking ownership over the county. She lives here. She wants to do well. She wants to make sure the work is good and accurate. And so, we want to keep that, so that what you worked out, does Lois get them from you monthly? Or just?
It just kind of depends on how many sewers we had put in, but at least quarterly.
Okay, yeah. So,
It just makes
and that's a process we have set up in Ravalli too. They electronically send us a file monthly. And we get the electric permits out of Helena. You don't have any type of building permit system, okay? Yes, I didn't think so. Now, and do you create like a Excel spreadsheet or something that you send her, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that could just continue, and you can email it to Polly. That, we don't even know what our mailing address is. We don't know what our phone number is gonna be. I mean, there are so many things those little details that are really important, and they will be there. I mean, it's just, we can't tell you that now.
We'll be on hold now and have to wait 4 days for a phone call back. Because that's what happens right now with the other state offices that are gone. I can tell you, the other day, a week ago, I had to call the unemployment office. So I called them, they closed their core. So their message said, go to the office 70 miles away in Missoula, or contact us on this website. So she rattles this email address, which you can't understand. So I have internet, so I went to the state site, made a complaint, and they sent me that address. And I emailed them with the case number, and I never got a response. And I never got the phone number that I asked them for. So I mean, those are the kind of things like that I know, to me, I'm glad Emily's here, because this is what happens when they, the small counties get the shaft. I mean, now, if a person has a problem with the Department of Revenue or their taxes, they're either gonna have to drive to Missoula.
Not taxes, because taxes is the county.
Well, I know, but they think it's.
Well, then we owe Lois
People-
a great big card of thanks, because
People
a
don't
lot of times we
understand.
go, you gotta concern about your taxes, and we just go point down the
Well,
road and send them off
You
to.
do send her stuff that you could answer here.
Well, and
But I
that's,
think that's part of the
I
idea
know, but
here is
people-
to make sure that Holly can maybe set up here
People don't
once or
understand,
twice a
people
month to
that
make sure.
have a problem don't know where to go. They get their tax bill and they're freaked out. So yeah, they do go to the Department of Revenue, maybe they should be coming here, but they'll try to call Missoula and they'll get put on hold, they'll get lost in the paperwork. There's forms that they want. 50% of the people in St. Regis do not have internet. They're not gonna be able to be online and get help. I mean, so some kind of mechanism needs to be set up in these rural counties, or all these people get lost. I mean, I remember when they took all the job training stuff and they made it all to the job service, so, and I asked the commissioners the other day, nobody comes out here, like, they might check on the mill or something, but like when someone needs retraining, they don't know about this stuff because they quit coming. And then when you have to call the state, because you have a problem, because now your internet fixed, like you go over to Lois and she would call someone and they would fix it, but it's like, so is all those mistakes just gonna go by the wayside because we'd have to drive to Missoula to tell them about the mistake, or, I mean, there's a lot of things that, and it's not really on you, Debbie, I don't think. I think it's really, people really need to realize, I'm kind of upset that, I don't know, if I was, the county, it's like, the state, like, cuts all these offices. They never got together with the county commissioners or anybody and sat down and says, like, are the treasurers, we're gonna have to do these cuts. What can we do for the rural counties to make this smoother? They just came and said, hey, you're closed, that's the way it is. They never.
well, that's not entirely true, Judy.
Oh, did you guys go to a meeting where they had you guys and?
They came
asked
to
us?
Mako, the director, and it was at Mako, they were at the Treasurers Convention, they went to the League of Cities and Towns. No one really even expressed any concern during all of those visits until and they said, this is a possibility, this is a potential, this is what we're faced with. These are the things that are going on. And until there was actually a closure, we didn't hear anything from anybody.
It's even,
So-
it's even like planning board meetings. Who goes to a meeting when they're proposing subdivision regulations until the subdivision is in their backyard?
Right.
And that's when people get
That's
stirred
when
up.
it
But
gets
Wouldn't it be better to say, hey, we're proposing this, you better send a representative from each one of these places and let's sit down and talk about what we're gonna do? I mean.
Well, and and Denley can maybe speak to it.
Yeah, I mean,
That we didn't have a lot of time.
I'm not blaming
You
you,
know,
I'm
so-
blaming the people in Helena. It's like the way they're doing this. It's like,
Well, and there's,
I mean, they,
And you're right, Judy, as far
they
as
have no
the
idea what
internet.
rural Montanans, how they live or how they operate.
I even talked about, when I got there, that was the first cell phone I had, because I don't have service at home. And they laughed, you know, they didn't believe
Yeah.
that, well, you live in a state and you should have all of these services. Well, it just doesn't happen. I
Right.
mean, I just got off dial-up a year ago. You know, it just, you're right, they don't understand
Also,
rural.
Deb, maybe you can help me
And
with
you
something.
can't get an answer on a phone
There's,
call.
there's a process that seems to me that, and hopefully Mary can speak to this, but we wait for the Department of Revenue to come back for the mills. There's a integral part of that. I'm not quite sure how it works, but it seemed like that information was always coming back from Lois when we were establishing the
That's a state
mills and
statute.
doing that part of it. So, what am I missing?
Yeah,
They're supposed to report
Put
it to the
those-
clerk and the clerk's supposed to.
Doesn't Missoula
But I-
have that? The superintendent's going to Missoula.
No, that's different.
the compilation of the mill levies, is that what you're talking about?
I
When,
put them
when
into.
the commissioners are gonna set their budgets and the mill levies, that information is coming back from the Department of Revenue.
We get that information from you, we deliver values and you set the mill levies
what is
and do the
Lois doing?
compilation
By
of
state
it.
statute, they have to
then-
give it to the clerk.
puts it in for the taxes, she gets me the mill value, and then you
The
figure
mill
out
value,
how
so-
many.
Who's setting the mill value?
We do value.
So that's-
Value is what we do,
Okay, so getting the mill value back to the county, that's what Lois says.
not the mill value, we get the taxable value too,
And
and
then
then we
we
figure
figure
out
out
the
the
tax
mills,
meter.
and then I give
I
that
understand,
information to
but
Lois.
you're getting something from Lois that you need to do all your job, right?
Certification of value.
Right, but I
Okay.
wouldn't see where that would be in
But that's
difference.
gonna be this new person's.
That's
job to do
statute.
that.
But what about the SIDs and stuff? Is that a state thing or is that supposed to be a county thing?
By the letter of the statute, that never got changed when the elected assessor position went away. So by statute, the SIDs are currently still a Department of Revenue administration. If I were a county, I wouldn't want it because, I mean, if I were a county, I wouldn't want the state to do it because you set those resolutions. You adopt them, and it's a billing process. So we have been for several years trying to put that back to the county because it's a billing function, not a valuation function. But right now, it is still under law a department function, and until that changes, we will continue to uphold that obligation. A lot of counties in Ravalli County and in we do maybe 2 SIDs that we manage. The county didn't want us doing them when the elected assessor went away, and we didn't get access to their computer system, so we couldn't do that. And in many counties, we don't do them, but we do them in most of the small counties, we still do them, so.
So who will they contact for like the TV districts? Will they contact the actual board or will they contact the county commissioners?
Well, the way it's supposed to work is that we notify them of their assessment role, who they the previous year was billed. They then must report back to us what the new fee is and and who the charges go to. That doesn't always happen. We have a hard time getting, how much does the TV district want to charge? What's the lighting district charge? Is there any new, properties to be added? To me, it would be better managed at the county level, but
Then they have to hire a person.
and then then Lois goes into the assessor system and enters those. And there's not a lot of them in Mineral County.
No, but still, if you mess them up, you gotta charge twice on the next year's taxes and that makes people pretty mad, so. That has happened.
So,
So where will we go to fix mistakes when us, people that sell property and list property find them? We have to drive into Missoula or what?
you don't always drive over, well, you drive over there because
I
you
just
work
walk
there.
over there and show them, it's like, this is all messed up.
You know.
I just call Lois.
Yeah, see, she deals with it a lot too.
You'll just, I mean, you'll have to, whatever our new contact is for that, whether it be, you know, a phone number in Missoula, get the information to Polly, she can pass it on. I mean, we'll have a process in place, but.
It's gonna take a week or a month to get it fixed instead of a couple days then, or is that what's gonna happen to us?
Well, I'm gonna share with them that is the response time, is a big concern, customer service response time. You know, even though we don't get a lot of calls, or walk-in traffic in our office now, when we do, they're important. And they will still continue to be important. It helps you to do your work. You need that to do your work. And so, you know, we will, what I want to know is when we do this transition and you're having those kind of issues, then I want to know. That's on me. Then I can fix it. I can make sure that things get taken care of. But that would be my responsibility, so.
What about the people that are poor and don't have internet and need forms for, you know,
The tax assistance. and stuff like
tax
that.
assistance and stuff like that? Where are they gonna get that?
So if they call Lois, would they just call them in person?
Mhm. Yeah,
You know,
but
hopefully-
somehow we have to
You're gonna
get,
mail it to them, or
somehow
what
we
if
have
no
to
one
get that
answers the
information
phone?
out to those,
Yeah.
to people where, so, you know, and usually where a lot of that comes from, I think I might have said,
Yeah.
is, that information, usually starts in your county office. If you'll have somebody in there paying the taxes, and my taxes are high, and I can't afford it, what have you talked, you've been on property tax assistance, and you send them to us. So what we need to make sure is in place is that maybe you have a supply of forms. The forms have our number on it, and then you know, and you have a phone number that they can call, or business card you can hand them, so they can get a hold of us. You know, Polly can administer that locally too. They can get them out of the Missoula office, but I think maybe, you know, having forms on hand locally, with our contact information on that would be a good idea.
Probably the-
currently have in the office.
That's, you know,
Some of the positive side is the fact that Lois is retiring, so when the system is set up, the new system, that can be set up properly to accommodate rather than already have something in place and have to retrain that person to include Monroe County. So you can be more receptive right from the very start and say, this is your duty as well.
right.
So sorry, just because I just thought about it now. We didn't get the new tax paid stickers for the movement permits on mobile homes? Are we not getting those for 2018?
No, you will be getting those. I just had a meeting on that last week. What they want to do is print the forms without a year on it, so you can write the year in, so that you don't have that problem at the end of every year where, you know, we're out of, the only thing we have is 2017, and now it's 2018, and we need a ticket, so, but those should be coming out very shortly. We needed them, and we're allocating. No, that's a good question.
What about response time? I mean, they have to call a lot, they have to sit on hold, or if they got a customer waiting, tell them to come back in 4 days, or?
Well, I hope not. I hope not.
Well, that's what happens with the other state office. I had to call the DEQ one day. I've had to call.
Secretary of State.
Yeah, it's like you're lucky if they call you back. And then the person you get doesn't even know what you're talking about. Then you have to go to another person and another person. And
Well, I
it's
think
like,
that's.
It's just.
I know, and I think that's
And it's
I
frustrating
think,
for
you know,
rural areas.
that has to be
Yeah.
one of our
Yeah.
top priorities, is that
And
we make
Wisconsin
sure
people are rude, I'm sorry.
that,
Terrible.
I've called a couple offices
Yes.
and tried to get a little pep talk into them and say, you know, the people out here in rural areas aren't getting answered, and they need the phone answered, not just
They
not
treat
just
you
let
like
it ring and
that,
leave a
yeah.
message and then never get a response. But I know DMV, there was a problem there, and it helped a little bit. I'm not sure if it helped enough, but.
well, you know, as far as where I've worked in our offices, our response time is good in the valley, our response time has been good here. I still will manage, this Mineral County. So if you're having issues with response times, then you call me. And then it's on me to get that straightened out. I don't anticipate that, but, you know, if that's your experience in Missoula County, I don't want that to be your experience for Mineral County stuff. And I don't know, you know, I don't have all of the answers. I don't know how it's all gonna work, but I think this is a good start, that we need to do this together. If there's things that we can show you in your system, I think you have access to a lot of information in your own county system, Black Mountain system, but, you know, Lois has basically been there to answer those questions, but you have it in, you know, it's in your computer system. Maybe it's just some training on how to read it and interpret it. We do that, you know, in Valley County, because one of the common questions is that we get, the treasurer refers people to us that say, is my property tax assistance on my tax bill? Well, it'd be nice if it said on the tax bill, and I know the treasurers have asked for that. I think Mineral County is one of the few counties that does that. That's right. So that's no longer an issue for you. It's still an issue in our county.
But we can look up on the assessor and see if it's 50% or 80%,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Citizens are getting the disabled vet, and that is on
So you do that now.
So who would we call? So let's say we're listing a house, or she's doing a closing, and we need to know what the taxes would really be without property tax assistance. Do we call you guys, or are we supposed to call these guys? Because before we just asked Lois, and she figured it out for us. Is that a state job, or is that a county job? Because it's important in our profession to know that.
Well, and that could be a training of, the taxable value is in the county system, and you take 1.35% of that, and tries the mill levy is the estimate of taxes, but, you know, instead of the reduced tax rate, you use the standard rate. But that would, you know, that's probably gonna be a customer service question that'll have to go somewhere, and that's like I say, if you don't get the response time that you need, you know, if the expectation is, you know, that, I don't know why somebody couldn't answer that, but answered the phone and tell you right then.
If they answer the phone.
So basically, once we all work together and get a system put together, then maybe we could have a basic form of how the whole process works, and it may have to tweak by county or whatever. We've got 20 other ones, maybe we could all work together and figure out what system is best. I think electronically is a great idea. Then once we get that system in place, have that information available for people in your position, and then a number on the bottom, if none of these are answered, this is the number and the person you contact, which is basically on most computer systems in state, Secretary of State or whatever. If we need to make those websites more informational. But
And
right now, we really don't know.
Website.
Yeah, I was stuck in it yesterday. If I got a collection report.
Oh, really?
I found it, but it.
Really? Yeah, I know, every time there's a change.
And I'd be more than willing to keep paper or a website where we could print a form off for anybody that has no access, or
Right, yeah.
And we'll need to know that, because some of that stuff, Lois, is just always,
Yeah, yeah.
Always
I
let me
think
know,
there'll be,
so I
so,
don't
you know,
know.
there's gotta be that exchange of information and,
that she doesn't want me given, say, have them call me, so I don't know if that's just Lois, or if that'll be different on some of the questions that,
yeah.
She's just always answered.
Mhm. Well, and can you give me an example, like?
Well, when you just said on the percentage, I didn't know that that's how to determine what the taxes would have been without the, exemption on there. And that's something
Yeah,
that we
market
just
value
said.
times the 1.35% will give you the full taxable value.
Right, I didn't know that. A lot of that she'll say, especially with the taxable value, some of that she said will just call me.
And
I'll
that,
figure it
yeah,
for you, so.
and you could, you could call me if you want to.
And
Because I'm
you're
still-
always very good at getting back to me on any issues with response.
But, 'cause I don't, you don't have that many calls, and it's not like you're gonna overwhelm me or, my staff in Ravalli County. And I know there was some concern with Polly and Lois that they would rather a smaller county manage, Mineral County, because, we deal more with the same types of people, the same agricultural issues, the same forest land issues, and we relate to the same type of people. That's something that we haven't thoroughly decided, but I think above me, the administrative decision is for a central hub. Ravalli is not a central hub. You can't get to Ravalli. You have to be going there. We can't really service other counties. And that's why Ravalli County was actually on the table to be closed, because we're big, but we're not in a position geographically that we can be a hub. And Missoula is, and they were side by side, so, but fortunately, because of the activity and the growth and we're staying open at this point, so.
How come we're not combining like with Sanders or something?
Well, we could,
That could be a good hub.
that was a consideration, but for Polly to go to Sanders is more time and worse roads. And so that decision was made with regional managers. But when we asked Polly if you want to work out of the Missoula office, would you like to work out of the Sanders County office? We're hoping this teleworking works, because that keeps her here.
But she won't have an office, will she?
She'll just work out of her home and her state vehicle.
That might be a future discussion, there's maybe a space that Polly could check in the courthouse and operate for a half day and.
I think some of those things are on the table in other counties that they're discussing and.
Options there, say.
Mhm. So I wouldn't say that that's out of the question. We'll just, as things develop, this is a good starting point, but, we're gonna have lots more discussions and.
And what is Sanders County Point? Are they keeping Thompson?
Mhm. There was a lot of things that were considered in the closures, activity, workload, distance to the hubs. And so, based on the criteria, those decisions were made.
Would you be willing to swing up to my office with the?
Sure.
Okay, the clerk and recorder, when we're done, I have to work.
This is Mary Mover, she's in the clerk and recorder cabinet.
Hi.
So-
Deputy clerk and recorder.
Oh,
Very
nice to meet you. Okay, all right.
Stacy's out today. So.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I'm more than willing to work with it,
Okay.
And the good thing is we've got 20 ahead of us.
Yeah, that's right.
All the tweaks will be out by the time
That's
we
what
get
I'm
past.
hoping. That's what I keep telling Lois and Polly, they're gonna pave the way. Usually it's Lois paving the way, for us and figure stuff out but now we're gonna let those other 20 people do it. 20 counties.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
so-
guess it's up to you guys. You get to make the final call on the kiosk or gazebo, whatever.
Well,
you
what if we
call
have
it.
a tie? We have to have Casey break the tie.
There you go. Or we could even have Mary.
Pressure's on you, Lady Casey. All right, yeah, lawn statue placement and gazebo placement action item this time.
Yeah.
We can't kick the can down the road anymore.
Darn. Oh, but I will promise you that if you do, and you may not even want to make the motion specific to that spot for the statue, when I get half the money raised, he said he would start working on it. And then we could come and come back to you and say, okay.
Exact
we've
location.
got half the money. And so, and he will have probably, precise measurements. And maybe then we could all go out to the lawn and say, because I'm anticipating it, it's spring or midsummer. Go out to the lawn and say, okay, let's, how do we want to place it? Where exactly? And we could put some stakes in the ground or something, so. How does
Yeah,
that
the
sound to
location
you?
doesn't need to be concrete today at all, but just
Exactly.
something to
Just
get you
permission.
enough to start getting your funds and.
Right, permission that it will be on the courthouse lawn, however you want to word it,
Yeah.
And then you can make the specifics, where it's going to be when
Hey.
I get half the money raised. So if you want to make it sort of like that somehow.
Have you heard anything about any gazebo lovers in the interim?
No, everybody I've talked to says.
They want it out of there.
Yeah, a lot of people unfortunately said, I don't even know what you're talking about, what gazebo? And it's like, because I think it's been there for so long, people just sort of don't
Yeah.
look at it anymore. Because it, it was a good idea, but it just wasn't.
It's not really functionable.
Right. And so we're really looking forward to getting the recycle thing up and running. And so I did talk to Mark New about moving it. He wanted kind of a lot to do it. So I'm talking to George Regan. He's a real recycler, and he will help me maybe have some other options about moving it. But I'd certainly talk.
He's got his little excavator. You
Does
think
have an
he'd be able to maybe
excavator.
pick it up off there and set it on a trailer?
Right.
He's got a track.
Right.
Little track
Right.
excavator.
And so between those contacts, I will be able to, I don't know if you need to be reported to how we're going to do it or want to be,
Just
just
communicate with our Joel.
Joel,
Because he
yes.
kind of knows like where the underground sprinklers are. Make sure
Right.
you don't drive over this or that.
Right, and I think there are concrete, Cleo said there are concrete things in the ground, not real deep, but I will talk to Joel.
Oh, yeah, there's some
whether he
water
wants-
valves, yeah.
Yeah, whether he wants those dug out, I mean, if he wants us to dig them out, or he
Yeah.
wants to handle that. I don't wanna leave
Okay.
big holes
Right,
either for people
yeah.
to fall in, so I will contact Joel.
Yeah.
We'll work together, getting it off of there safely and not tear up anything, if we can possibly help it.
Casey, has our office gotten any phone calls about the gazebo?
I haven't heard any more too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wait, I might be wrong. It might have been email.
And then, Emily, you said you did communicate with Kay Strombo.
I just talked to her this morning.
Okay.
She is doing better. She was in the hospital pretty
Oh, I
sick
didn't know.
for quite a while. Yeah. But she is home now, and I mean, she had, quite a bit of medical attention there. So I didn't ask her about the key. She has a key to it, and I think you might have one and don't know it.
Possible.
Because Cindy at one point did have a key to put things in there.
Yeah.
So.
But as far as, you know, the guardian, the gazebo, AKA Kate Strongbow, she was totally fine with relinquishing that whole responsibility.
Yeah, I don't think she is. In fact, she probably like not having that responsibility.
Mhm.
You know, at this point, she's on a lot of boards and other
Mhm.
things, but yeah, she, and I can, if you can't find a key, because we would, George and I would like to look in it,
Mhm.
just to see how it's put together and the possibilities of,
Mhm.
you know, taking it apart safely or how it's gonna come apart. So,
Okay.
that would be an important thing to. Oh, thank you, okay. So, yeah, so did you find somebody?
Yes,
that-
so Dan Hollaback actually sent us
Hollaback.
the poll from the Facebook page.
Oh.
It's under the commissioner's email.
I got it, but I couldn't open it up because I'm not a Facebooker.
Right, so Lori, I know you have Facebook. Would you be
Yeah.
able to click on that link?
It's under the commissioners one?
Yeah, and then he just attached the links for those Facebook pages.
When did he send it?
Let's see. The 13th.
And it's from Dan Hollenbach?
Yes. So he included the poll and then other ideas. So there's two different links.
And took a poll on Facebook?
I saw it on there, but I didn't, see that anybody ever really responded.
To the poll?
Yeah.
I ended up deleting mine because I couldn't open it.
Okay, let's look again here.
Well, like I had said last week, that Sharon Patterson and Kevin Chamberlain were a part of having that grant that built that, and, you know, they were assured me that there was no strings attached to that, where it had to be used in perpetuity as
Mhm.
what it was started out to be, that could be reused and recycled to whatever the commissioners thought would be useful. So there was nothing there that would get you in trouble,
Mhm.
you know, as far as what the grant said.
Well, for some reason I can't. My emails only go back to the 15th, but, and it's from Dan Hollenbach, huh?
What's the name of the group that's doing the recycling? What's the name of that group that would be receiving the gazebo?
Did you forward it to my email?
Well, actually, what you would be doing is gifting the gazebo to the town of Superior.
Oh, okay.
That's what you would,
Okay.
as
Okay.
the county would be gifting it to the town.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Might take a few minutes. That's it. Okay, statute proposed for the lawn. And this was, well, this is the one back in November.
And that was probably still in the statute.
Yeah,
going over
and that
the
was
corner.
for the original on the corner, and that was 81
against in 24. Or 20, but in a different location, and then 8 at 4. Let me look and see here what his email said. Yeah, those were all from the previous poll.
And then the other one was
The recent one?
well, no, the one, did you put the one underneath of it too? It says other ideas.
Yeah, but we addressed those at the last meeting.
Okay, so
Um,
he's probably just giving,
These are all the
For
ones
rehash,
from
yeah.
the yeah, it was.
comments. Can you scroll down
Mhm.
on that email?
Yeah.
We have a lot of comments.
Emily, what's the name of your group that's gonna be, getting the funding for the statue? Is that a,
Or to Or project. I'm gonna call it the Or to Or project. ORE to OAR project.
okay,
So that's gonna be the fundraising for the statue.
okay.
Yeah. So as soon as we have your permission that we can put it on the lawn,
Mhm.
then I'm gonna
Okay.
begin to raise money,
Receive some- good.
raise money for that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he posted another one here after that last meeting, but
So you guys can already decide what you want on your brick. Because I'll be back to sell you a brick.
Okay.
And you can write whatever you, well, within reason, whatever you want.
Right.
On the brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bricks will be $100 and you have 3 lines.
Mhm.
You can write, in memory of, in honor of,
Right.
to thank someone,
Mm-hmm.
to whatever, you have 20, I think it's 23 characters and 3 lines that you
Okay.
can put on a brick. And so I will be back, and actually I have a sample brick I will bring back and show people when
Uh-huh.
when I get that, so. And then there'll be only 370 bricks sold. And once we get those sold and the money in the bank for it, then we can decide, and I'd come back, we can decide on like a plan of either putting the bricks around it or maybe even a path, maybe
Yeah.
from a sidewalk to go up to the statue.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that the Historical Society will jump on board. They
Yeah,
haven't
because
so
they had that
much
idea,
yet.
I think I told you they had an idea for these bricks themselves,
Right.
somewhere in the courthouse, so maybe after your 370 are kind of sold for your funding, then maybe they would have a plan to kind of dovetail off of it and make, I don't know, how, so if they could sell some and.
If they wanted to,
Mhm.
I'm hoping they will possibly put in and make
Mhm.
the pictures that can tell the
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
of the history of our
Uh-huh.
community. I'm hoping they'll
Mhm.
maybe fund that part of it.
Yeah.
But, it's,
Because, I mean, almost every courthouse, when you walk up to it, has some kind of a bronze board that says, built in da-da-da, or whatever. It's kind of a little bit of a history. Only we have are the numbers above the columns.
right.
So I was just at the courthouse in Shoshone County, and they kind of talk about when it was built, and it survived 1910 fire, then refurbished in 74. They give a little bit of background on it.
Right.
They have all this fancy marble. I don't know where that shipped in from. But it looks kind of like you're going to a Roman Colosseum over there.
Oh, really?
That's probably why it survived the fire.
This, this will definitely tell the history of our community, for sure,
Mhm.
from where we
Yeah.
started with mining and that kind of thing. So the courthouse, when you first come in up those stairs off to the side, tells a little bit of history about Superior
Mhm.
and when it was named, and I don't know if they include the courthouse when, I think it is. Doesn't it say when the courthouse was built? and-
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't read that.
I know there was a big debate about where,
Mhm.
between St. Regis and Superior, where to put
Where,
the
yeah.
county seats and so forth, and, but
Yeah.
aren't you lucky it's
Yeah.
here?
Mm.
Oh, golly. So, but,
So is there any more?
No, all the comments, you know,
Were the
that
old one?
poll was from the
original.
original meeting, yeah.
Hmm. Well, given that I haven't received any calls from anybody, and given that there's nobody here to protest or say otherwise.
oh, there's Glenn.
Oh yeah, Mr. Kepke, do you have a comment on the topic at hand?
I really don't.
Okay.
All right.
Casey, Mary?
My opinion? What are we talking about, the statue or the gazebo?
Either one, both, or comment on
One-
both.
Okay, the gazebo, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
It's a great idea for recycling.
Okay.
But as far as like the statue goes, I prefer that it doesn't go.
Okay.
I like to look at the courthouse, I think it's a historical monument, and I think we should actually forego every statue and maybe put some picnic tables out for, the public to come and look at the building. So,
Oh.
that's my, but I'm not opposed to your statue, just in a different location. Which I don't know where it would be.
Okay.
Maybe the park or something. I don't know.
Wouldn't really serve as much of a tourist draw that I was hoping to get if it was out of the way. The locals would love it.
I did, I was coming back from Missoula the other day, and I know that the pool is kind of closing or whatnot, but you can actually see the pool location from the highway, so maybe if that building was completely moved or redone, the statue could go there and it could be visible from the interstate.
You could see the pool from the interstate?
Heading
West.
How fast are you driving?
I was
I can't see
the
that.
passenger.
She had a flat tire, was going 10.5 miles an hour.
Who owns the lot between the pharmacy and the Sonic Hall over here?
Ken Cool. Ken Cool. Owns it, yeah.
I wonder if that would be, I mean, it's a pretty open lot and nothing's there. It would be kind of nice maybe to have kind of
I would
a
like to see
statue.
a park there, a pocket park.
Yeah, if
go
you could
right
have
there. But
the-
you'd have to buy it from Ken Cool. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's not wanting to donate that. I'm sure. he's
How
hoping-
tall is the statue you're proposing again?
Probably 16 feet.
Tall?
14 to 16 feet tall. Yeah. It's a work in progress but that's what he's anticipating for dimension wise. And I think it was 10 to 12
12
feet.
feet.
So how big are these tables? Forget. Were these 8 feet, maybe? Or
Yeah, so I
maybe
think it's as long as from me to you, and then it's
Probably-
wide would be what, 6 feet or something?
something like that, so probably, yeah.
Well, I guess, first things first, I guess, I move that Mineral County gift the gazebo that's on the lawn to the town of Superior for their
Recycle project.
purposes of recycling and whatever. Yeah.
I'll second that.
All in the favor of the motion to gift the gazebo to the town, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. And then, the decision to allow so that she can begin securing funding for an idea for a statue at no cost to the county.
district.
You've been in here, Glenn, for a little bit, listening in. What do you think of that size, dimension idea? Or
Well, I think the message of the statue is good. Promoting and celebrating our history.
Mhm.
As far as where to put it,
I think we were kind of leaving it a little bit open, that it'd be on the
somewhere in the area of the gazebo. kind of.
lawn somewhere, on the courthouse lawn. And when I get,
in place of the gazebo.
it may not go exactly where the gazebo is, but
In that vicinity.
That'd probably be the best place.
area.
It wouldn't distract the view from the four-way intersection, or the Fourth Avenue intersection. That needs to be clear for safety. I wouldn't mind seeing that tree go, because,
We can't talk about that anymore.
I know.
my feelings exactly, but,
Well, I love trees, but it's gonna end up costing the county one of these years.
Mhm.
just a fact.
So where's the gazebo gonna go?
The town,
They are giving it to the town of Superior, and we are going to move it, the town of Superior is starting a recycle program. And we're gonna move it up to the town, you know where the town shop is?
Yeah.
Cause that's where the bin is gonna be, the
Oh,
recycle bin.
right.
And we're gonna have it manned.
Okay.
Have, you know, so
Certain
we don't-
hours?
Certain hours, yep.
Okay.
And we're gonna have it manned, so that'll be a place for them to stand out of the weather and stuff, once we get it put up there and fixed up a little bit. Yeah. So, we're
Is there-
recycling,
Are there any-
recycling.
Are there any footings under the gazebo? Like concrete pad or anything?
There are. Cleo that helped build it said there are.
are they just like concrete cinder blocks?
I think they are, just cinder blocks. And
Mhm.
George Regan and I are gonna take a peek at
Yeah.
how to take that decking off and move it, you know, correctly.
Is it that composite decking, plastic
Yes,
composite?
it is.
Oh, it is, huh?
Yes, it
thought it
is. And I
was.
don't know how, I looked at it and I see staples in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they stapled it or what.
Probably with
but-
a staple gun,
I
power
don't-
staple.
But anyway, George is gonna help me see how we can take it up.
So I think that'd be a good location.
Yeah, I think if we'll recycle whatever we can from it and fix it up so it will be useful, a useful build, you know, or if you could even
It
call
would
it
be
a
a
building, whatever.
curiosity as people are driving on River Street and they might see that, pull over and park and go look at it. And-
Oh, well, it's gonna be up Mullen, you know, it's gonna
No,
be.
No, the statue.
Oh, the statue, okay,
Right.
we're talking,
Are
okay,
there
I'm
gonna be
sorry.
interpretive plaques around it or something?
I would like the Historical Society to help with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There should be something like that.
Oh, yeah, those old pictures are just, they're priceless. Those old pictures of the mines and the, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
kind of a timeline of how the county
Right,
developed from
exactly.
its inception, its breakaway from Missoula County, when the railroads came through. I mean, there could be kind of a
Right.
timeline of all these cool things that have happened
Absolutely.
when the interstate came through,
The
all the way back to Mullen Road, and then building up.
From there, yeah.
I did a interview for KPAX a few years ago at St. Regis with Dennis Bragg about the transportation.
We didn't have anybody here, Tim.
Oh,
Nobody
wow.
else.
This corridor is such an important transportation.
He didn't want to be gifted?
Corridor. But I did an interview specifically about that.
Just about the
Well, they
railroads
already
and-
Mullen
talked
Road,
to the Historical
Yellowstone Trail,
Society.
Highway 10, Interstate.
That's why I double
two
checked about
railroads.
Kay Strombo.
Interesting.
All-
So
She's the head of that. She has the key.
Drawn carriages through, that's interesting.
He talked to me this morning, but I thought he was gonna be here on time.
Back to the 1850s. when
Neat.
Mullen came
So-
What's his problem with it?
Very
He doesn't
cool.
think we should give
Very
it away. He
cool.
thinks a lot of people
through. Yeah,
got
I'm sure
donations
the
and time and money into it,
historical
and
put together
they don't want it to be
a
gone.
quick story.
Well, it's
Yeah,
not
and
gonna be
it's a
gone.
thing, maybe
I
mean,
five or
from
six
here,
Yeah,
pictures
yeah.
You know.
on the bottom. Yeah, and we could,
A little narrative and then some
Yeah.
specific subject panels.
and I'm calling the project Ore to Ore, because we started out mining and now we're really recreation. I mean, and that's, I think, where the economics of our community is going, is recreation. For tourism, on the river, fishing, outfitting on the river,
Mhm.
you know, that kind of bird watching, enjoying what the beauty we have
Mm-hmm.
that I take for granted too much. But anyway, so.
So, so Casey, since he spoke up, I had someone else, what do you think of this idea? Somebody said that we should move our parking area more into the lawn. Do you think that's necessary
More parking?
in front of the courthouse?
It would be helpful.
What about your, I mean, I'm talking about your ideas of a picnic table, that would encroach on that, would it not?
Maybe.
Instead of parking right here behind Mary, people would pull up and park in front of the,
So up to like the sidewalk right here?
yeah, further into the lawn. Have you heard that idea before?
Not really.
Have you? I like the idea of the picnic
This
tables.
section.
Huh?
I thought like this corner section where the grass is, but.
We'll have to get rid of the tree if we put more parking in there.
I know, people love that idea.
Right, you don't want to block the vision on that corner.
No.
And I like your idea of the picnic tables, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe they might go with
The
a statue, or under the shade trees, or on the brick pavers.
Well, just
Benches
another
and-
couple benches, because you have one.
Mhm.
There's,
you
I
have
think
one
there's
or
only
two.
2 benches out there.
Yeah,
One
you have-
here and
If
one
people
over
could
there.
sit out there and
But you
eat their
could have
lunch
more-
or
more benches.
be by them.
Sure. More benches around that statue would be.
I kind of like the
perfect.
lawn being big and shaded and, you know,
But then you're gonna have the maintenance guy complaining about having to mow a lot around
Tables.
picnic tables.
well, that's why I
or-
meant if the tables were on actually some of the pavers, if the
Oh.
if the
Yes.
historical society got some brick, like you said, you might have a little walkway with yours, and there might be kind of an area paved around the statue with some
Tables
picnic
or-
tables, and then he would just mow around the
The whole.
The
perimeter.
pavers, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's,
I don't
that's
know.
an idea
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, one certain section just kind of squared off and,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is any of that going to affect the underground sprinklers?
well, that can be moved. I mean, those can be, you know, if there's a sprinkler there, you can cut it off or,
Clamp it off and route it, or
Yep.
route it out underneath it.
I know those days when it was like 100 and whatever, it's nice to have those shade trees and sit on the bench and,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, no real naysayer, well, we did hear from one half of a naysayer. But I think that in order for Emily to maybe see what kind of interest there is for securing funding, I move that we grant her a spot on the courthouse lawn, exact location to be decided upon later once funding is secured for her ore-to-ore project to begin collecting monies.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion before a vote is taken? Further debate? Jen Donovan?
I guess if we get some flack, we can revisit it, but.
And certainly it's all gonna
Well-
depend on whether I get funding,
Mhm.
so.
Well, yeah,
you know,
it's
we
all
may not have
contingent,
any statute
it's
at
all
all.
contingent upon
So,
that, of course.
Right.
Yes,
And then,
so it may
and
not be.
and
as-
if you do get it, then to me, that's kind of an indicator of public desire and interest.
Right,
And
exactly.
and on the other hand, I also know that we are resistant to change, but sometimes, once the change occurs, people go, oh, that actually looks better than I thought. You know, I hope
Yeah.
it's one of those kind of deals.
I do too, and
That
and
it's not-
seeing his past artwork, and his
Mhm.
desire to, I mean, he has been in this county
Mhm.
for 40
Mhm.
years, you know, logging, and it's close to his heart to do this for the community as well.
Mhm.
That's why he agreed, he said, I'll just
Mhm.
start on, you get half the funds, and
Mm-hmm.
I will just start.
Okay.
Because he's anticipating building it in sections so that
Okay.
he can, you know, he's not gonna have scaffolding on the lawn
Mhm.
for the next 5 years. You know.
Okay.
So, but I will report back when,
Okay.
Yeah.
keep you in the loop
Okay.
of how it's going.
Okay. Without any further discussion then, all in favor of the motion say aye.
I,
Aye. Commissioner Simon's absent. All right, thanks, Emily.
Great. Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay, okay.
Just for his input. I mean,
1:37. See, Emily, 1:37.
Thank you.
7 minutes late for public comment. Any publics here want to comment?
I have some stuff for the health department, but
Okay, couple things came up. Well, more than a couple. People have asked me for ideas. One thing is the autos, the impound autos at the airport. Why doesn't something ever happen with those?
Mhm.
You know, I know they need to be offered for bid or something. I'm sure there's a whole chain of events that have to happen. Some of them are probably tied up in cases.
Well, we've been pushing for that for a long time. It's just getting the sheriff's office on board to get the research done and get it done.
It comes
so.
up once in a while and it just keeps going on.
Wow.
It's starting to
So-
turn into, it's almost blight out there now, you know? It's starting to look like blight.
Mm-hmm.
We got enough of that on private property.
Yeah. Pretty soon we'll have to put a 10-foot fence around it to comply with state law.
Yeah, something. And it doesn't compound any of the FAA guidelines, apparently, having it that close to the airport for fire hazard or anything, or environmental hazard.
Oh, I don't know. Where'd you get that from? I hadn't heard that.
No, I'm just asking.
Oh,
I mean, if there were like a grass fire out there, you'd have quite an issue with those things. And if they're leaking any chemicals into the ground, that's not good. And then also at the airport, I've got a friend who's a private pilot and formerly was an airport manager for the FAA and air traffic control. And he doesn't have a plane anymore, but he's always curious about how the airport is managed. And does it have a manager? Does it need a manager?
well, the airport board, and they have their head, you know, I think Steve Temple's still kind of the head.
Yeah.
He kind of
Manages it.
manages, yeah.
So they got enough help?
Well, I'm sure, you know what, maybe they might have a board opening coming up that maybe, would he be interested? Because I know Don Felstead was on it, and I don't know if Don's still interested or not, but that would be a great opportunity to maybe get some of his expertise if he wanted to start with the airport board. Are they having you do that secretary stuff for him, or?
I'm no longer doing the airport board.
Brandy Taylor is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Brandy from dispatch?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's the, okay.
Yeah, she took over Cindy's position as
Mhm.
Oh.
doing the airport board.
But she might know,
Do they publicize when those meetings are? Are they recurring monthly meetings or quarterly?
I don't know how frequent they are.
Oh. Okay, I'll ask her next time I see her.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing was, let's see, I saw something on the emails, I think, about the Lookout Resort. I saw the term Lookout Resort.
Oh, on the agenda?
Was it on the agenda or some other emails that I saw? Is that in addition to the speed operation?
Well, this week on the agenda, it had Shoshone County visit regarding Lookout Resort, and I
That's
went.
it, that's it.
That was Tim and I went over to Wallace to meet with their commissioners to let them become more officially aware. I mean, I guess they may have been verbally told by Denley or others in the past about the issue of the state boundary line up there. So we don't know when it happened because a state line is a state line, and the Montana Department of Transportation has known where it is, and the Idaho State. But when they built the interstate, so the state lines were always built where, okay, on the peaks of mountains and ridges. So when the water going this way, that would be Montana, and the water melting that way would be Idaho. And so they kind of made the state line like that. But then when they blew the top of the mountain out for the interstate, some of that awareness of this is Idaho, this is kind of went away with the big flat top up there. The transportation departments fully know where the ridge used to run, because when you go to the top of the hill, and you go past the exit ramp, you start downhill, you'll notice that the Montana side is blacktop pavement, and suddenly it goes to concrete Idaho. They're not going to pave any part of their state they don't have to,
Sure.
and vice versa.
Yeah, I've talked to Danley about it over
So-
the years, and he's showed me maps and photos.
Right.
Of where it should be.
So, and we don't know what year it happened or what, but the Idaho and state of Idaho and the assessors kind of redrew their lines to just have have it be up by the overpass where the exit ramp is. And that way, it included most all of the ski area, and whether it was the interstate kind of steering it that way, or whether it also was the fact that the two forests, the Idaho, whatever they are, Kootenai and ours over here, that the one forest decided to manage the whole ski lodge, so I guess everything just kind of got thrown in to the Idaho side of things, and the state boundary became ignored. And so we were saying, you know, in the past, the previous commissioners didn't care because one half of some building that a groomer was parked in only amounted to $220 a year, or what have you. But now that they're expanding and there's ski runs, there's talk of a new lodge, and there's talk of a new toilet system with the stormwater runoff coming on the Montana side, blah, blah, blah. We need to define and clear up. This is the state line, not your little assessed area or the Kootenai's forest area. It's the state line.
It's a panhandle forest.
And everything goes over here is Montana. We have to handle the stormwater runoff. We have to handle those things, so we should get the tax base from these new buildings, new runs. So we were giving them that decision that it wasn't just us saying it. Tim had to get the United States Geological Survey and had to get word from the Fed. The only ones that can actually change the state boundary line is the Feds, Congress, and nobody has done that. It was just something that Idaho did over the years. You know, we don't know if it was one person or... So anyway, we're saying, hey, guess what? We finally want to remedy this before you guys go any further with your... And so they were going, oh, first we heard of it, and thank you, and you know, we were on the agenda. Here's the whole booklet of all the people involved and all the surveys and the word from Billings and Wyoming and everybody. And so we're going to follow up with a letter in about 30 days saying, because they were all like, whoa, we need time to process this, talk to our legal team. And so then the next step will be, well, what'd you think of it? Because now we're going to start making sure, get things corrected.
It was probably just boundary creep over many years.
Yep.
Yeah. But the term Lookout Resort, is that an official name for the whole operation now? Because it was Lookout Pass ski area. Have they changed the whole?
Did you borrow that off of one of their flyers?
That was the Tim Reed.
And you know, in the past, yeah, they used to be just a ski club up there. And then they did become more of a commercial entity, 15, 20 years ago. So maybe they do call themselves a resort. I don't know.
I just was curious. I hadn't seen that term used for that. I thought maybe it meant something bigger.
Well, you know what? I never heard of St. Regis being called a resort either. But I'm kidding. The resort tax. I gotta throw it back at you, Mr. St. Regis.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, we're going on vacation. We're going to a resort. Oh, Big Sky, Whitefish? No, St. Regis.
It has some amenities.
They don't even have a subway anymore. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Well. Okay, I guess that's all I had. We've got the calendar of events done for all the St. Regis activities that the community council is involved with. Our first activity isn't until March with a spring dance, St. Patrick's Day potluck and dance on the 17th, which falls right out of Saturday, so that's convenient. So I'll email the calendar events to Casey.
Okay.
So she can have it for reference if somebody wonders when things are happening.
Yeah.
In the region.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to know.
Do you put that on the hospital calendar too?
I've tried. I really haven't gone back and snooped out to see. I don't get around to looking at that thing. The few times I did look at it, it kind of confused me.
Oh.
It just seemed like a lot of baggage on it.
Oh.
I don't know. But I should probably look again. I'll forward it to Monty.
Yeah, because they tried to put as much on.
Right.
And speaking of, you know, it's in Superior, but you probably know about the potluck tomorrow at the 4-H building.
Oh, yeah, the beginning of the cabin fever.
The old one that Toots always used to organize. You know,
Sure.
just trying to keep, and then they're going to have a guest speaker, I guess.
Right. Some lady, mother of the military.
Yeah, all 4 of her sons are in the military.
Yeah, I've presented things with that in the years past, too. Okay. Well, I guess St. Regis is gonna co-op football with Mullins.
Really?
That is what I've heard.
My goodness.
starting next fall.
That makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Driving over that pass.
It'll be in August and September and October.
Oh, so not for any wintertime
No,
sport?
just football.
Just football. Huh.
I haven't seen it written up anywhere, but they had a meeting about it, and that's written up the other day.
Huh.
So does Montana High School Association, do they
Oh,
have
yeah,
a say in that?
the respective associations have to agree to that, but it's been done before.
Wow. I think it get kind of complicated with,
Mondack.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
over there,
yeah.
Right, Grenora
Mhm.
and.
Westby.
Westby and Grenora, yeah, across the state
Mhm.
line.
Hmm.
Of course, there's only,
15 miles
yeah,
between
flat
them.
15 miles.
Wow. So you attend the school board meetings, I take it?
No,
Oh, you just get that hot off the press then?
no, that's just the town talk, it isn't, I haven't seen it in print.
Oh,
It probably won't be in print until it's official with the 2 states.
mm-hmm.
I guess that's all I've got.
Oh, well, thank you, Glenn, for keeping us updated, coming all the way down here and keeping us in the loop. Is your St. Patrick's thing gonna be at the visitor center?
Community center,
Mhm.
yep, it's a family-friendly thing, you know,
Uh-huh.
just easy listening music. Got the 3 guys, Eagles Nest Band, you know, the guys that played at the store
Mhm.
for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Those come in and play easy listening, you know, family-friendly music.
Gary Woodson and those guys.
Yeah, Mike Stefan and
Is Steve the chainsaw guy on that?
he used to play in more of a country rock band. No, Gary, Mike Stefan, and Jim Tisdale. And sometimes Freddie Michael sit in with them, or we'll substitute for Sunday.
All right. So Jen, good to see ya.
Yeah, you too. Wanted to give you a couple updates. So the rabies training that I had talked about at the Board of Health meeting, they sent out the flyer for registration today, and I asked Candace to distribute it to all the Board of Health members. I'd love it if we could get somebody from the Sheriff's Department or the town, or, you know, some more people to go to it, and you guys are welcome to go as well. It's pretty interesting and informative, but that's the first thing. And then the second thing is this CDC report is rearing its head again. The one that I mentioned during the Board of Health, where they said that Mineral County is at increased risk for hepatitis C and HIV outbreak. So what happened is Kim, what's his last name? Kim
Brigham, Missoulian writer.
Familiar?
Oh, yeah.
So he reached out to Monty and said, what? How did Mineral County end up on this list? So if you start at the back, what I'm giving you is our email communications so we can all be on the same page, just so you have an idea. He asked specifically how Mineral County's, what numbers are punched into the formula for Mineral County that makes it so much higher at risk for HIV. And so I contacted Jim Murphy, who is the bureau chief at DPHHS, who we had been talking to originally about this situation, and he said, yep, I'm not surprised this is coming out. You know, the report's been out for 18 months. It's probably going to keep coming up from time to time. So he said, feel free to refer him to me and give him any of my information that I've given you. And so that's what I did, and I responded to Kim pretty carefully because because what they found at DPHHS was that every county or tribal jurisdiction is at risk. And they really could not figure out, after doing high-level epidemiology and data analysis, how we ended up on that list. There's things that are special about our county that I can't prove with data, that I'm not willing to put out there in any way, shape, or form, in any way that someone could twist and say. So I wanted to give you a heads up that he's asking about it, and let you know what I've told him, and he is going to talk to Jim and go from there. So
Yeah.
really, I just wanted to keep you guys updated
Yeah.
in case he calls, because in his most recent email, he asked for, I wonder if there's any anecdotal evidence or expert speculation from the county to explain this. And so I just figured he might be starting to ask folks like commissioners, or I don't know, he might call doctors, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted you to be aware that he's asking. So what we're gonna do is, I have a call scheduled with Jim Murphy on Monday to kind of talk about what we're currently doing for surveillance, meaning how we find out our information, and then things that maybe we could improve upon. So I'm gonna just step that up, and I'm envisioning something like I talked to, I don't know, Sheriff Boone or Ellen, or I don't know, in addition to our medical providers, just to see if there's anything else going on that might be kind of concerning. But at this point, with the information I have, there's really nothing to raise any red flags.
So it isn't based on blood tests that come in higher than other counties? I mean, it is kind of anecdotal evidence at this far?
Well, what they did is the CDC took 6 variables, and then if you look on the second page, I have them listed, and I took these from the reports that came from the CDC. So they took drug overdose deaths, prescription opioid sales, buprenorphine prescribing potential, and I think that's the medication they give to folks who are overdosing on opioids to prevent them from dying, income, race, ethnicity, and unemployment. And you can see that the data sources that they used for those are listed there, and it's kind of old data. So what I told Kim was, you know, right now I've told the Board of Health, and we've informed our providers and everybody, and we don't have any new cases of acute hepatitis C or HIV, at least in recent years. And I mean, I'm still new in this position, so I don't know everything there is to know, but I'm not aware of anything. So I said, you know, with our last identified community health assessment, you know, these are the needs that the community said we have. Substance abuse is one of our 4 main areas, so we have a plan in place, and we're working at chipping away on those topics. So between that and then stepping up our surveillance, just kind of assessing where we are and improving it, I think we'll be okay. This is scary stuff to me because I really don't enjoy talking to the press at all.
Yeah.
But
who does?
But it's good because it's getting our wheels turning about what if this were to happen to us, because maybe it could. It could anywhere, you know. So we want to be ready. So.
And if you do talk to Kim, just know that he's actually one of the last of the good guys that you can say, please don't print that, and he won't.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I'm like super.
No, he's been really good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
He's interviewed me and got me all fired up, and then I go, I didn't mean to say that, Kim. You get the gist, but don't say I said that.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. But yeah, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I kind of ask for the state's guidance, because I am not the expert on this stuff. I'm not going to pretend to be the subject matter expert on data or CDC data analysis, you know, because that is pretty advanced things.
That buprenorphine, I was wondering, but if you say you know what that's for, I was wondering, what if it was something like there might be one person in Mineral County that has HIV and takes a special drug to keep the symptoms down? Like if that was the drug, then that might be making it look like we have a problem because we have so few people. But that drug isn't the one for HIV treatment.
No, it's not for treatment. But and what it is the ability to prescribe the medication. So it's like we have 2 physicians, MDs, who practice in Mineral County, Dr. Lovell in St. Regis, and then Dr. Pafford. And so I don't really know, but it's a different medication. That one's for opioid stuff. Okay. But I have a feeling that it has something to do with our low population and those kinds of things, but I don't know. So he wants me to be the expert, but I'm not. And so I just wanted you to have a heads up that he's asking these questions. And so you also know what we're doing, because we are aware of it. You know?
And I think a lot of it is, you know, we have low population and high unemployment, and you know that is a factor in it too, so.
And one of them is your race and ethnicity. So they were saying white, non-Hispanic is at a higher risk for hepatitis C infection. And I don't even know about drug overdose deaths in Mineral County in the year 2000, from the year 2012 to 2013. I'm not sure about all that, or how many prescriptions of opioids are being sold. So those are the 6 things that they narrowed down from a list of 15 that they evaluated. But the most telling thing to me is at the state level, they said, we really can't figure out how they picked you two. And so, you know, he's like, you guys should be doing your surveillance and you should be prepared, but above and beyond measures don't really need to be enacted at this point. And they're super supportive, so if you guys have any questions or, you know, something piques your interest, like maybe we should be doing that or whatever, just follow up with me, and if I don't know, I'll ask them.
Okay.
So, any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming down.
Thanks for having us.
And you don't have any problem, you know, we're gonna talk about the safety, passing that maybe off on to Ashley. You don't
That'll be
have-
fine,
Okay.
yeah, as long as, she has some kind of a training. I
Yeah.
talked to her a lot, I said,
Yeah.
I don't want it to take away from what you're already
Right.
doing. And, should she come? Should she come?
I think she's coming.
I think Casey talked to her earlier today when she come to pick up her check about that we're gonna talk about it, so.
Yeah.
She thought she was gonna try to run down, so.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah.
If it ends up being a huge thing.
Yeah,
Then that might
it
get tricky,
shouldn't
but she
be,
feels
but,
like right now
yeah.
it'll be all right.
Okay.
And, actually, while I'm here, we had a request for an internship with her position.
Oh.
How does that go with the county? Is that okay? Is that not okay?
You mean like the CERT kid or
It is actually from Ashley's professor, because Ashley's in school, she's doing classes. And, it's like an medical administrative person internship, and they asked for a lot of hours, 140, and I thought that maybe more like 40 would be reasonable. Of course, they'd have to sign the HIPAA stuff and all that, but, is that
And they
okay?
just come down and shadow of Ashley kind
Yeah,
of and see
yeah,
what
just
she
kind of,
does and. There's no problem with it.
no, just like I said, she signs
Mhm.
and 40 hours for the winter or
I don't know the time frame.
but you said 140. I thought you said that's too much to go to 40. So what parameter were you thinking the 140 was falling within?
I imagine some kind of like a semester
Your
system.
semester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it'd be good experience because actually like, you know, no one really knows about public health until you're here. You know, so I think it'd be cool, but
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think we have 140 hours worth of, and I don't really want that
Right.
on Ashley either, because that's a long time to
Yeah.
be orienting somebody
Oh,
who's
yeah.
gonna leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
After a while, you lose your
Yeah.
own little privacy and your routine, and you're always.
So, yeah, but the safety thing would be fine.
Cool.
Yeah. She keeps me posted.
Mhm.
So.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have them at any place?
God, still kind of public comment. Come on.
Okay. So in the past, it was provided underneath the Mineral County Health Department. And so what I was looking at was pursuing it under them as well. But the difference this time would be, in the past, it was under Sanders and Mineral County. So this time I wanted to just apply under Mineral County. And then I already am a resident in Mineral County. So I figure it should be easier to, you know, provide the services underneath that. But I wanted to check with you guys because I know one of the things that's been brought to my attention from the past was the kind of the split, not only between the staff and the person providing the service, but then also that there could have been some money that maybe was owed to the county. And so I was asking Lori about that the other day.
Yeah, and I don't know how that ever came about. You know, there was some discrepancy with the DFC grant and money maybe possibly having to be re-owed to them, and I don't know how that ever came out.
Okay.
I wonder if Jessica would know from keeping track of the books.
Yeah, Jessica would probably,
Okay.
Jessica
So I could follow
Conley,
up on
yeah,
that.
follow up with Jessica.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there wasn't any, or however that would work, I'm not even sure how that would end up happening.
Yeah.
because it's under a grant, and so it shouldn't even be.
If it was a whole new grant,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that.
Yeah, it should be completely no.
Yeah.
And under, somebody else and whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to, I guess, get the blessing to pursue it because it does take, obviously, it involves you guys. And what I could do in the future is bring in like more specifics as far as like what I'm currently doing. So right now I do substance use prevention in the county, and I'm working under Partnership for Success grant, and it ends in September. So basically what I wanted to do was do a continuation from what I've already been providing. And because our coalition, the Healthy Communities Coalition, is so strong now, I feel like there's a lot of people who are on board with it and who can help me move it forward. Because long term, obviously, I'm looking at the sustainability piece. And I'm just afraid after all this work, because this grant that I work under is 5 years, I only worked under it for 3. And I did a lot of work to get where I'm at, And so I hate to just see it completely drop. And I don't really know that there's going to be any other grants that are going to be coming, this way to continue that program or that process. And so there were a few things, like I had to write up a logic model. And so under the first one was an SRO. And so that's one of the things that I've been talking to Sheriff Boone, I guess he's Sheriff now, acting Sheriff Boone, about trying to pursue that under the COPS grant to get something like that in place. And so that would be one thing that I would love to see, in place in all 3 schools, because I think the presence of law enforcement is really important in building those relationships with our youth. And so that would be something that I'd like to try to continue forward and get in place. And then I'm also doing what they call life skills, but it's around substance use prevention. So I go into the health curriculums in the schools and talk to them about drugs and alcohol and preventing that among youth. And then also the concerns, for adult use and why it's such a problem in Montana and those sorts of things. So I would be continuing that, as well as I'm the secretary of the DUI task force, so then helping with the compliance checks and getting the message out kind of around the social norms in general in Monroe County, that it's that we aren't going to tolerate over drinking and responsible use, those kinds of things, and so working to improve the DUI issues around here. So that would be another thing. And then my ultimate goal would be to build a youth coalition. I think long term, that's what I'd like to see. And so under the DFC, you get training to form those coalitions. And I think that would be probably the next phase in my thought process, is to get these kids really involved and invested so that they carry it forward instead of all of us trying to tell them, I think it would be much more powerful if they were able to do it themselves and come and speak to adults about the things that they would expect to see or like to be held accountable for, or programs or services that we could offer that would support them, to make healthier choices, that kind of thing. So that would be kind of my goals under the DFC. So,
So speaking of, do you happen to know what the status is of kind of the previous coalitions that were being pieced together, if you will, or
for the youth?
Yeah.
I know that he had youth from each school that he had representing, some of the, like the Elevate Montana kind of stuff. But I don't know, how active it is, or,
I think once
I'm not sure.
He kind of got out of it, it just kind of fell by the wayside as far as I know. But.
Yeah. So I know right now, April Quinlan is starting one at noon in St. Regis with kids, and it's called Defy 'em, and it's about, youth who are speaking out against, drug and alcohol use. And so that would be my goal, is to really grow, those kids that are involved and get them out in the county speaking, and then even to be able to provide some type of, like a camp or something, that they're heavily invested in, that we can say, every year all the kids come together and this is something that they do to approach it, besides, just coming together maybe quarterly, to do events in the county. So you know, those would be kind of my, like I said, my long-term goals for building a coalition among kids, so. And, you know, obviously getting involved in the DUI task force would be great. Just other places that I think we could plug them in, and then, you know, start to change some of those norms, social norms for alcohol use, especially because it is high for alcohol use in Montana and for underage drinking. So yeah, and the only like expectation I would see from you guys would just be the in-kind. So, you know, if I'm working, if I come to the coalition, then, you know, it's just understood that I'm here, you know, and I'm still getting paid and whatever, but I'm doing, you know, doing my job. And so it wouldn't be that there's any match in money, essentially. And I think that was a misconception in the past too. There shouldn't be anything that you guys would have to put up to match for the grant. So.
No, I think it's a good deal, you know. I always thought it was the last one, we really needed it, but it just seemed like it. So I think we had our own, it would be really good.
I think so too, and then 5 years gives you plenty of time to really grow everything, you know, and get it certified, so that then when you do step out, somebody can take it and you can turn it off and continue on. That would be my goal, my ultimate goal, because my period would be in September. I'm in there, in the schools, and provide, you know, this education and information, but who's gonna step into that role, you know, after it's done? And so I think, again, if we really get the youth active, then we can guarantee that that's gonna continue forward instead of always trying to plug in some, you know, outside person to fill that role. So, and we could still, you know, do some representation if they wanted to, you know, at the legislature or somewhere like that. If, you know, that was something that people really liked in the past. I don't see that that wouldn't be a possibility. But for me, I always focus more locally. You know, I want to see the big changes here. I want to, you know, hear that parents are saying, yeah, you know, my kid is helping out with this and this is really important and I want to support them and, you know, those kinds of things, and at the school too, so.
Yeah. I think it's a good deal, and.
Okay.
Yeah, check with, you know who we're talking about when we say Jessica, because she would know
Jessica Conley.
where that fund was at
Okay.
and what's left, and if we do,
Okay.
what it
I
says.
will
Just
follow up
check with Casey and she can give you Jessica's number or whatever,
Okay.
and when Jessica might be in here next or whatever, so.
Okay, all right, I will follow up with
Okay.
her. Okay, well, thanks for your
Yep,
time.
thanks, Stephanie.
Okay, well, I'm probably, I mean, as long as you guys are comfortable with it, then I probably will continue to try to pursue it, because the RFP was issued the 12th, and then it's due March 29th, I think, so here coming up, you know, so probably have to get on it, get things rolling.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Good luck.
Nice
Thanks.
meeting you. Okay, so 3 o'clock, oh, where's my agenda? It says safety coordinator discussion, possible action item. So, Lady Casey.
Yes, so currently I am the safety coordinator for Mineral County, and with the added duties from finance, I no longer want the responsibility. And so I talked to Ashley, who is currently on the safety committee, and she was interested in taking over those duties, and she
Well,
has
that's
a lot
nice
of
of
great
you.
ideas. So, yeah, I'm just asking that you transfer those over to
Did,
the
did you tell her or about how much work is it for?
Yeah, we
Smiley?
discussed that. It's about 5 hours a month. You know, not a lot. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes it's less. So, but she has a lot of positive, great ideas, and I think she'll be really good at it.
Good. And currently, there's not really any compensation for it, but I hope that one day maybe we can reward people like that take on extra.
Yeah.
We'll see at budget time if you still like it, and and if you don't remind us, have her remind us.
Okay, I will.
Especially because it ends up, Smiley, it kind of ends up helping us save money if it's done and there's enough. Helps on our, what does it help on, Casey? Our premiums or our safety rating or
Yeah, our mod factor,
mod
our
factor, yeah.
premiums, and yeah, just
Yeah.
overall participation.
So it is a benefit to us to have somebody do it and do it well.
And we brought it up at the last safety meeting where most of the, well, a number of the elected officials, department heads were there, and everybody thought it was a good idea, so there was no opposition to it, so.
Good.
Anyway, so,
And what were you hanging up in the halls today? I didn't look yet.
Oh, I was hanging up stuff about WIC, getting more
Oh, okay.
people to come out. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're happy that you're willing to help
yeah,
carry some of the load around here. Appreciate it.
yeah, that'd be great.
So I guess,
Do we need a motion?
yeah, I guess we need a,
I'll make a motion that we turn the safety committee over to Ashley Blaylock.
all right, I will second that. Is there any further discussion before a vote? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, new safety coordinator.
Thank you. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Whether to accept this proposal from the landowners and what it is.
See you later.
Do you need, we can wait if you
No,
gotta
I'm
go talk to her. Okay.
I'm just waiting.
Okay, so we won't, Tim says we won't actually sign a document today, but the landowners would like to know, because one of them is leaving town soon, regarding the Sherlaw Road and the findings of fact, if, on the petition to abandon part of the road, they would all be in agreement to pay for the little bit of frontage that they'll be receiving from narrowing that street from 100 feet to 50 feet or whatever it is, that each of the landowners, we the undersigned, all propose to the Mineral County Commissioners to pay a flat fee of $500 for each of our 4 parcels of the Amador Town Site Abandonment Settlement. So there's 4 landowners, $500 a piece, it would be a total of $2,000 to Mineral County.
And then they'll pay for the survey and everything to have it
Yeah.
taken care of, but it's,
And that's the thing we probably sign with them later, but right now they just want to know if this amount of money is agreeable to us to move forward with the survey and whatever.
Yep.
So,
it is with me, so I'll make a
$2,000.
motion that we'll accept the offer by the 4 landowners on Sherlaw Avenue.
okay, and I will second that. Each of them, the 4 would pay $500, a total of $2,000 to Mineral County for the acquisition of a little bit of the parcels. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right,